I figured since I'm on a roll, might as well record something else, right? So, I was watching Weird Bikes, recommended in my feeds, of course, about the "it's so good that MotoGP changed the regulations?" question mark. Unique Z-line engine with 3 cams and 2 cranks. I was like, why do you even need a crank? What? Well, I wasn't expecting that. Of course you need a crank. Why would I need a crank? I just use gears. If I have a pivoting system like that German guy does for his bikes, and then I have gears with the right little, pin there in between each one of the cylinders of my inline 4, I then can have another gear that travels down in between and they can counter rotate. I can have the front and the rear, the one that has the flywheel for the rear and your clutch and all the rest of it, be counter rotated to the one in the front, because I have these other gears in between of each of the cylinders that are counter rotating, with the one gear that's of course going to the one crank, which isn't really there because it's just fucking gears, which still need an axle. But hey, you know what? The best part is you need to counter rotate this, right? And I'm like, okay, all right. So Formula One inertial dampening suspension with harmonic balancing oil pumps. I get 2 of them there. I get a cross-plane kind of style for the inertial dampening. And then the harmonic balancer is a gear, 4-gear kind of thing that pump when necessary. Inertial dampener, and it's rotating one way, and then the other one rotates the other way, or, whatever you need, really, as it goes outward and inward, based upon each and every single one of the pistons moving. Then it's like, here's a little bit of fucking fuel right into your cylinder with my super turbo. There's a little nitrogen filtration, of course. I'll have 15 psi. You gotta have the forced induction of your super turbo. With the, of course, CVT of your supercharger part of the super turbo. That makes it so it's at 15 psi, and then it keeps it all the way up to the point where the turbo takes over, and it's at 15 psi and goes into your gearing, which is well connected with the right gears for the counter rotation. Sure, they're gear bearings and they're lubricated, and they're also helping oil pump and engine coolant pumping because they're right there in between the cylinders. It means that it's more compact, lighter weight, has complete no gyroscopic anything, and is way easier in all aspects to repair and maintain. All I have to do is take... What fucking crankcase? Do I need one? I guess that's where my dry sump or whatever the fuck the coolant pump... I mean, wouldn't that be where all of the oil and everything else is, I'm just saying for the coolant here. I mean, it's technically the lighter weight. Seeing as that'll, with the right, little pivoting system and the gearing and the, slightly not perfectly round parts, that means I don't have the boom at top dead center or the yank at bottom dead center. You know what that means? That means I can have it upside down because it's a dry sump anyways. That means I can use my air injecting system with pushing in fuel because it's really going to have very low atmosphere in there at first with the air injector. Since it's sealed, I only need exhaust to come out. Since I only want exhaust to come out, that means I don't ever need an intake except for the air injectors. If you know where I'm going with this, wait, hold your horses, because I'm going to absorb the heat from each combustion cycle to vaporize the fuel, which is a good thing, get just enough for it to burn a little bit, get it around that 1200 to 1500 psi from top dead center, and then just keep burning it as it goes down to middle dead center, or really up to middle dead center. I have a pivoting system, remember? But you know, that also means I can rotate it longitudinally, no, vertically. Now that I think about it, I could do that. And you know, I don't really actually need these like round gears. Who said I need round gears? Why can't I use axle and the right kind of other gears? You know what I mean? Like, when I think about it, why do I need it like this? I can make this way smaller. Like, way ridiculously smaller. Sure, it pumps from down and then back up. Okay, sure. I mean, you know, that just means I don't need as much force from a parasitic loss flywheel to have it go back down. Especially with the exhaust recycler bottom, which is now just a head for the top. I can make it way more compact. Because the exhaust will just go up to the top and then help push it back down. I can still run the serpentine belt. I still have the turbo, be a little bit more efficient, a little larger. Still ultimately have that help with parasitic loss by running serpentine, supercharger, all that stuff that I need. The flywheel would be a lot less. I can then have it disconnect, use the turbo as the flywheel itself, if I'm being really realistically honest. Especially with the nitrogen filter blowing directly into both the cylinder after it pulls a vacuum in that cylinder at the other side for the crankcase and all that. Which, would there be one? I mean, at this point, it'd just be a slightly larger engine block, top and bottomer kind of thing. But at least it's completely gyroscopically stable, and it should, if I do it right, with the right bearings, have less friction and lower weight. And then it's slightly more complex than, I guess, a counterweight, axle that's bent around like a snake. But I could probably get it done with just only 2, maybe 1, really, with the right gears for all 4 of them. Now you think about it, I could probably do all of that. This guy, Xenon Reality, could absolutely do that. Yeah. So anyways, I could do that, and then I can improve it even more by having the flywheel and clutch assembly wherever I need it to be. I can actually move that a little bit closer up towards the center, in between where the cylinders are, instead of further down below, because of the way the gearing would work like that. Which, that'd be good. Might as well do that. I mean, I can clamp the engine block around it. Different type of gears for the axles that are there. I've already seen where that works. Yeah, no, I can make this way more compact. I can still have it a longer stroke, but the reason why I talked about it being like a short stroke... So I was going to use this pivoting system that happens to make it a short stroke, but it'll act like a long stroke because of the way I can use it as like an Atkins cycle hybrid, but it's not actually Atkins cycle. Because it's like, well, I get the full duration of the power stroke, right? But then it's like, that's actually extending it on one side, but then when it goes back to its intake, it's actually shorter. So every other one, it gets me a longer stroke. Versus for my intake. Certainly, the slight caveat here is I have to have a different gear to suddenly match and go back to 1-to-1 for the compression and exhaust. I only need it during power stroke. That makes it much more compact with less friction because it's just the shape of a gear with another gear that matches the shape of that gear at that right point in time for my 4-stroke power stroke. So, as a result of all that, I now actually have more power, compactness, and an easier way to shove this in even smaller areas. Yeah, sure, the pistons go up. I mean, which way do you want do you want to go up or down? I mean, it doesn't really matter which way they go, because they can easily go back up. I mean, it's better gravitationally speaking, because they'll want to fall back down, right? And it has to resist the pressure trying to push it up, right? But it's like, it's easier to push it down for power strokes. So it's really a balance there. I suppose I can always just alter it, because there's nothing stating I can't do that. So now I'll have 2 going up and 2 going down for my crossplane. And you know, screw it. Let's just put the final nail in the coffin. I'll just have that nitrogen thing for what I want for the 4-stroke, but I'll also have it such that the top and the bottoms are both combustion zones. That way, it all works much more easily. I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, top and bottom. There's nothing saying I can't do that and transfer that power. But there's also nothing stating I can't do, like, piston connecting rod at the top and also at the bottom. In fact, all of that will work, especially with my injector technology. And it'll be more balanced now. Outright. Instead of having more weight only over here, it's over here. And over there. But it's really down to you. Like, do you want more weight down here? I mean, yeah, I suppose you would, right? Huh. Because at that point, it's more about center of mass for a motorcycle. I'm talking about this for a motorcycle engine. So it's like, if you do it like that for a motorcycle engine, then of course you want it more low. But then it's not as balanced. Not just the weight, but also the engine balancing. Because it would be actually genuinely easier to run those gears at both the top and the bottom and have them match their timing, kind of like a type of camshaft lobe thing for the pivoting in 4-stroke cycles for a increased length, like an Atkins at that moment. It'd be far more balanced if I could do it that way. Yeah, because even though the weight is up high, it also means that the weight's more balanced, which means I have a far higher amount of RPM I could balance it at. Especially as a crossplane with the oil and inertial dampening system, because like that can easily balance itself as it counter rotates outwards away from itself and spins for each given piston. Same thing for the oil harmonic dampener for 2 of them, as they can counter rotate too. Which now means it's perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Especially with my the rotating valves that can now counterbalance themselves by counter-rotating. Which I already talked about in my single-cylinder video. But they're effectively bearing journals, but then there's 3 of them. One side has a hole, they'll go up, they'll go down, and they're sealed to these little, you know, areas where they slide into. That could work. Shocker, I know, douchefuck. Turns out I'm smart. Throughout all this video, I'm going to put all of it, you're listening to. All of it. You were like, no! He couldn't possibly have a design that could make that work somehow. It's got oil and coolant that runs around it, so it's always cooled. Plus, it's only going to ever do the exhaust, so it doesn't really matter as much for your intake air temperatures. which makes even better performance happen. Who is this person that doesn't know things? Anyways, I'm gonna move on. Alright, so alright, I got the engine perfectly balanced now. I've got it at having no gyroscopic instability whatsoever. It's just fucking going anywhere. Flippity floppity, whatever the fuckity. You know what I'm saying? It's like that wet noodle between your legs, probably, because of how emasculated you are. And how impotent it seems to make you that I'm so much smarter and better than you. Anyways. Like, too many drugs, the sky's on. No, I like to do degrading language. You should check out my fucking goddamn, Reddit account. You might see that I'm that guy. See what I'm saying? So, anyways, move on. But it's like, alright, so I got it balanced. It's an inline 4. I can tuck it in real close. Then I have my whole, there's nothing saying I can't have it such that I lean back and I'm a little further forward than the engine. There's nothing saying in any damn form or fashion, with an engine like this especially, that I wouldn't be able to basically have it in any goddamn orientation I want. So let's just make it a 45-degree angle towards the rear. And then I can have it such that the intake is fine. Honestly, you know what I mean? I don't really need it the way that most people do. I can still air and liquid cool it together. There's nothing saying I can't do that. Especially with hardline tubing that's a structural part of the motorcycle, which then means, you guessed it, I can rock your fucking world, babies. My radiator is also not just a radiator, it's a supportive member, just like my engine, just like my coolant hose lines. And my oil coolant lines. And more. I just released that video a little earlier. So it's like, alright, I'm doing a nice little fucking hell yeah, I'm feeling myself. I'm gonna fucking do the concept of a lifetime here. This is literally the best inline 4 you could probably ever get, baby. Instead of parallel interrupter. Cross-plane. That's right, we're doing cross-plane. With the balancing both top and bottom. With the oil as well. Not just the inertial dampening. I can have it go out one side and return in the rear. Spread and diffuse from the center. I have the tank in the front. I've got the longer monkey bars, if you call them that. Is that really what that is? They call them ape hangers, apparently. I don't know what the difference is, truthfully. I think it's because they think apes, but that's chimps and orangutans that do that. That's not apes. Apes don't do the well, I suppose they do sometimes. Anyways, I'm gonna move on. Doesn't matter. Point is, they're really just longer, so that way you can lean back and have a more luxurious type of experience. Especially when it's like, I can tuck this thing real nice, you know what I'm saying, into that. So that also means my passenger can also sit a little bit closer, a little bit nicer to me, although you're probably not going to get away with being a obese individual or even chubby, most likely. If you want to do that. A little too chubby. That's, you know what I mean? You can get away with a little, but it's not gonna work if you go too much like that. The exhaust can go right. That's gonna be a structural member, especially with the flat muffler high flow resonator, glass pack, and then recycler, and then the muffler tip at the end, which would basically come out right out the rear like a cafe racer. So that'll work. All of that's working so far. I can see it right now in my own head. I'm not even kidding. I'm going to split the fucking front, though. I'm going to have like a singular radiator, but I'm going to have two behind it. All right? So they're going to be thin. So one, but then it's got an exoskeleton. And I have two behind it that are split. So that way it helps. Well, first, the flat ones in the rear. So the first two are split. So that way it helps divert some of that airflow around. And what goes through, I can put a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There's a fan in there behind it. So I have two radiators per engine cooler. But it's like, no, I'm still not fully finished because remember I have the super turbo. So it's like I'll use water liquid cooling to the nitrogen filter. And I'll do water liquid cooling after the nitrogen filter as I split the oxygen and nitrogen off. And I use that to also help with the 4-stroke cycle for the top and bottom as I recycle our exhaust. Exhaust recycling is great at top and bottom as it only really needs the right manifold to be able to do that. Because I can stick the turbo right there because it's a 45 and I can put that fender there in the nice little chunky kind of style of flat muffler that's a little bit, got a little bit of a heat shield effectively. Make sure that fender tire don't have any issues, right? It's got to be structural, right? That means I'll be able to really force it to be much stronger and lighter as a result, but also even better, more compact. Same thing with a nice little vacuum heat shield insulated material with the structural saddle seat. That way you don't get all too warm, Wouldn't want that. You can cool the nitrogen filter right there with a little bit of air cooling right in between. Or the air shrouds are going to push it in between the saddle front area where I'm driving it, or whoever it is that's driving it, and then pushes it into the horizontal, which I could then get a lower scoop at the bottom to blow it into as well, with a little bit of side air from behind where the legs are for the air shrouds into the air cooling of the engine and also the exhaust. So it's totally possible. And then I still have the ram air, which is still a donut-shaped, LED diffuse light that can just add in a secondary or two secondary brighter LED lights to act as my high beams. I got air around the outside of the donut and air on the inside of the donut to act as the ram air. Nitrogen cooler is cooled, air going in, air going out is cooled. I've got the 15 psi, I got the air injectors, I got more than enough torque because I can basically extend the duration of my acceleration of my cylinder pressures while they're fine. Brake mean effective pressure is fine, and so long as the head gasket is ultimately, along with the heat that's around it, not surpassed its material design strength, it's fine then. You, however, should be a better driver, most likely, or rider, that is, because this will absolutely be your butt that moves it like it's not even there. It's like, whee! I can just move around like nothing. There's nothing preventing me from immediately going from any side. No wonder I always give people big, ginormous tires. Look at this 5-inch treads. Hey, is that a 4-inch? Yeah, 4-inch width sidewall in the rear. 5-inch sidewall in the front. Get that nice, what is this? The back in the day old school style axle instead of belt. Because, the housing can still absolutely be a structural part. Especially when I want the other side, that's also structural, to be a tube that's air, vacuum, and hydraulic fluid, shock, spring, tensioner. You get it? With the ability to be cooled as it rides through, of course. Obviously, 2 brakes in the front, 2 brakes in the rear. Nice little basic bitch shroud to help push some more air around there for air cooling your brakes. I'm going to have 2 calipers on either side in the front, just the 1 calipers in the rear. They're going to be bigger in the rear, though. I'm going to push it at 3 because this is inline 4. So 6 piston total for both calipers in the rear. And then 6 piston, so 12 on each rotor, which means 24 for the front. Got my fender for you. I'm going to need to make it so that way it's all big, nice, and gooey, the great power, because I can really kind of lift this up just a scotch with the rake and the fork, and the seating position is going to be just fine, a little bit higher because of the bigger tires we've got. Which means you absolutely could just decide to go around some of these larger holes and have a lot more fun of a time on the track, as you could lower yourself just a smidge with a little add-on, well, not add-on, but unbolt, slide, bolt back in, latching, tension kind of system. You can get a little closer to ground. Put a little diffuser there. That's the add-on part. Along with, we got a nice little shroud for our rear and front brakes that make it so that way it's just fine. I got a little bit of downforce. As I lean really far over, sitting in my recliner. Woo! Oh, goodness. That'll be fun as fuck. Especially, kind of what? Oh, God, yeah. I keep thinking about it, but I'm like, I don't think anybody knows, how much that gyroscopic stabilizing effect really is worth having without, G-force to support you. No, I'll brake and then I'll just dunk. It's like... What do you know? The engine didn't just make it so you didn't immediately fall over. Shocker. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should corner harder. Put some beans in it when you go into the corner. Be a confident motherfucker. Try a little more. Use the weight your fucking body has, bro. Anyways, me, 6'4" guy. That's kind of why I'm building it, because it's, or as a concept, because it's abso-fucking-lutely, I would love this. This is a fucking dope kind of idea, honestly. Not to mention I could corner way harder, and I'm not going to have nearly as hard of a time doing it. You know what I mean? It's going to be super fun. I'm going to drop it to 4 inches in the front, maybe. I mean, it really depends. It's how much do you think you can brake? Because, those wider tires will help, so long as there's a flat enough contact patch. But you don't want it to be too flat. So, it's really about pressures at that point. Yeah. So, but that would be the end of my canceled gyroscopic and balanced inline 4 concept. That's right, folks. The concept of a lifetime is effectively mine for an inline 4. Especially when they have essentially an inline 8 that's balanced with the nitrogen. Hey, you know what? I want a nitrogen cool one side or the other as I freaking force it into my turbo more. Along with my CVT transmission for my super turbo. My turbo's a little bit bigger. Because, why the fuck not, man? You don't like bigger turbos? Cheese. Look how big my turbo is. Just for an FYI instance, I'm not even gonna like try and do this for much longer. Okay, but it's like the exhaust manifold would be a structural part of the engine for the clamp, but it's like actually a turbine system as well. So it's like the exhaust at the top and bottom would be going into towards the center. That center would then all be directed towards a singular by having it snake underneath and then over top the right way and up and down to then come out as an equal length tube header to one singular part, which would then just be into outward larger style turbine, right? Interrupters to the super turbo. But that also means I can connect every one of those gears and axle point connections straight through the engine where I need to, all together, to the super turbo, which would have to definitely be a part as a structural member to the engine, especially with the manifolds that have to go to the air injectors, which would be, like I talked about in the single cylinder engine, but it's like they're one-way valves. So it's like if I have 4 of them, I really have 8 of them, but I don't really need 8 of them. I need 24 of them because I need 3 of them that are larger to be able to push them out of air as fast as possible that I need to really do. That's why often people will try and force in air first. That's not really what I'm looking for. But I can always add in with direct injection. Everything's going to be direct injection with a little bit of port injection. The air and fuel together after top dead center. So I can run out lean or very low and then start dumping it in after. And so long as I can get enough air, oxygen-rich air, and fuel, they'll continuously burn. Even if it's not very high pressure like compression ignition, it's still hot enough and it's burning that it should do it. Right? Now, 3 of those is because I need to push that amount of actual air. Air is a little bit more difficult, which is fine. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's nothing wrong with any of this concept. In fact, all of it will work. Sure, I have to have, one of the air injectors on the other side. It has to be like a triangle, and I have to angle them the right way so that way they'll be able to have a vortex-like effect so I don't burn the cylinder sidewall or the piston head. And I can get a little bit more efficiency as it'll try and, as it spins, push a little bit more outwards, right? So, and always dump in a little bit of fuel ahead of time that soaks up some of the heat, and then I can dump in the oxygen-rich air. That's all injector timing stuff for a custom type of ECU that wouldn't be in any way what you could get on the market currently. At all. So have fun with that one. Especially for tops and bottoms as like an inline 6 somehow. Oh, I'm sorry. 8, which also is balanced like an inline 6. But no, I'm not really fully done. I wish I was done. Because like that Ram Air Super Turbo, it's a supercharger that then has the turbine take over like a turbo. If you don't know what that is, that's what that is. They got used extensively back in the day, but they weren't as efficient as simply just lately starting to burn your air and fuel mix and then having that immediately push into your turbo. So that way it spools up like an anti-lag. And I was like, okay, cool, but then there's still lag. Whatevs, bro. Anyways, the reason why I have for 4 of these that go from one side to the other towards the center and then one side to the other so they'll look a little bit more like a diamond shape. You know what I mean? And then that'll go towards the... Anyways, point is, The reason why is because it's more efficient and I capture more, and it'll be a structural member. And I was going to talk about the air, but the thing is like the air is sort of just oxygen, which means it'll burn no matter what. It's gonna burn. Like, no matter what, it's burning. Here's 65 psi is what I wanted, but I'm really going to allow for about 15 psi, really, realistically. But that's what my single cylinder video talked about. It's like 65 psi is what I'm really aiming for. Because it's like, well, 65 psi for an injector makes total sense. Especially when I have to push the amount of volume of air that I need to and the duration of it. Right, of the number of pulses and how fast, and that's why I have 3, and they're bigger, modified diesels. So, like, I start at 15, right, but it's like, I should probably bump that up, right? It's all about air, but then it's like, I can always dump that a little bit more in, and then burn after. There's nothing saying I can't do that. It's just all about timing and compression and the amount and ratios and but it's fine. I can do it. No, that's not the issue. Good, I don't think I have an issue. Should all work. Nothing shouldn't work. Nitrogen can still go to and pull a crankcase engine block vent, right, from the headers and bottomers and crank and all that to the cylinder, and then dump in the nitrogen. And then just dump into the turbine and any odd pulses. So that way it's always constantly, I still have that dump into the crankcase, the power delivery to the... Right, because I didn't talk about it, but it's like, right. I still need that transmission, which I didn't say anything, but that's where the transmission would go. It'd have to be right where that little separator heat shield, like the little vacuum ceramic kind of heat shield thing. And then it'd be on the other side for a structural, but that's why I used ring and cone with the ball gears as packs, not CVT one only. No, multiple little smaller ones that could start small, go to larger gears, or larger gear to smaller gears, that kind of thing. But I have multiples of them, and I can still change them like any other normal, regular motorcycle. It's just going to feel a little different because it'll go a lot less drop. You get it? More performance. That kind of thing. Still gears, by the way. Still fits in the classification of gears. I just have multiple gears for each gear. That's how that would work. Okay? So, and then the transmission could fit within that because of how small that those would be for the rings that I could put both on one side and the other, and the cones that I could fit in between the 2 packs of rings with the balls there at the top or bottom or so on. So they could be flat and directly connected to where the crank would be, the clutch flywheel. And then on one side where it connects like that, the other side would then deliver it for the independent link suspension differential-like axle that goes to the rear. That's a structural part, right? Actually, all of that would work. That is correct. All of it is quite compact and very, very able to be done. This is a full, fledged concept. I can absolutely make this. There's nothing saying I can't make this. This is a perfect concept. It'd be a great racing engine. In fact, this is insane, the amount of extra power I'd get. Considering in 350 was maybe the single cylinder, and it was a 1.2, blah, 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 blah. It is a 1.2 liter again. 4-cylinder, though. 4-stroke, except it'll act a lot more like a 2-stroke. With a nitrogen blast to a fucking bunch of turbines constantly. And then it bumps up the turbine juice with a no, not the compression, power stroke interrupter. Right, the power stroke. that goes brrr, kind of thing, right? And then I have the exhaust go whirr. I can easily resonate that to make it sound like it's a fucking V16 practically. Because it's going to look an awful lot like a V8, in terms of its sound signature, except it'll be like a double V8. Which will sound real good, interrupters. Deal with it. You sound crazy when you say you're an interrupter. I mean, that you have interrupted. Shut up, bitch. You fucking... Oh, so you still want to keep talking over there, stupid cunt face. Is that you in the comments that deleted that comment? Are you going to be mean and then I was mean to you first and so you didn't want to? Trolly trolls? Because I'm feeling myself, be confident in what I know, and I know that this would work. Every bit of it, actually. Completely. It is a fully balanced, completely good to go concept. Like, legitimately. In fact, it's easier to put together considering we already have linear seals for, like, rods that go through the seal. Back and forth. That's solenoid seals, basically. We'd be able to lubricate them with compression rings, too. Not just piston oil rings. We already have pivoting systems that work. They've already been done. We already have gears that would be able to match that. We already have axles that could do. In fact, every bit of this is something we could do. Nothing would be not something I couldn't just piece together myself if I could get the money. Which, of course, I don't have any, and I don't have an income. I'm trying to get on Social Security. So, see if that ever happens. I could make a lot of money doing this. Holy shit. There'd be so many people that want that fucking engine, that fucking mission, that goddamn exhaust, the bike itself. Oh, I never said that. So, it shouldn't easily hit around that 500 foot-pounds of torque up to about 28K. So whatever that works out to. Because it's fully balanced. And would have the necessary internals that are a lot less stressed to be able to do that. Let me just get out the old, let's see here. This is the horsepower and torque calculator. So to get the old torqueys and the foot-poundies. Alright, and then we'll do 28K. So that is 2,665.7 horsey powers. Good old motorcycle. Woohoo! You need that over 2,500. Granted, it passes my sanity checks because it's within the CFM range and the super turbo range and the pressures I could run at and the heats and everything. So, like, everything fits within sanity checks. And it's fully balanced, which means, man, will it be smooth as fuck. Oh, especially with the power torque curve of like a secondary, which means it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Except I also happen to have everywhere in between a bunch of turbines that also add to that. So it'd be like, woo. Imagine like I was saying numbers in that brrr part. Yeah, I mean, imagine I was doing that somehow, being able to have that happen. Feel like an electric motor at that point with how I could make it work, right? This is a constant power delivery. Instead of being like, man, I have a constant, every fucking 25, whatever the fucking, not 25, it's like 400, 360 divided by 4, right? Anyways, moving on. Imagine that it was like that now. Then, of course, there'd be dips. So it'd be like, wee, and then a slight dip for the nitrogen. But actually, it'd also be added in with the exhaust. of one of the other ones. And then and have the other extra nitrogen pushed in. And bump it up so it's like, it's slightly lower. It goes back up slightly higher on the actual power stroke. Yeah, standard stuff, right? Get all 16 power bumps just layered on top of each other at all times with a freaking Jesus Christ. That'd be really fucking hard to handle. It'd be super cool, don't get me wrong. I love it. But it'd be very fucking hard. You know, the torque alone to my rear wheel would be like, hey, 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 hey! I can't get traction, you damn motherfucking dumbass! Fucking take down the goddamn power to manageable levels. Anyways, my engine management comes around and it's like, yeah, no, it's fine, brah. You're only getting 50 fucking horsies. It's fine, you only need 50. Maybe I'll torque 50 my fucking ass. You got an overdrive gear over there? A couple. It's really just about management. That'd be a -1, -2, -3, -4. Even though I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 packs and a reverse. Right? But of course it's still like just kickstand and turn it around. It wouldn't weigh very much, I gotta say. It's like I can basically everything's effectively a structural member. Wait, where's the tubes? Where's the fucking tubes? Where did my tubes go? It's essentially seats and a fucking goddamn and a fucking thicker gas tank with the right little parts on it to make it more structural. That guy is okay. Breathe. It weighs nothing. It's essentially a fork and a goddamn arm. A couple of seats. That's definitely really cool, by the way. I love it, honestly. It's just, whew, boy, that'd weigh a lot less than you'd think. I'm going to probably target around that 250 to 300 pounds, if that. It's only because of my wheels and the fucking massive gas tank I'm going to give people. Because it's like, are you sure you don't want like 2,000 horsepower? I'm pretty fucking sure, bro. You really that sure? Why are you making it so I can do this? No worries, man. It's not going to ship like that, of course. I'm only going to give you 560. Actually, you're right. I should just give it to you straight as 777 horsepower. Up to 28K. It's fine. You'll survive. It's okay. We just fucking not try and die. This is 700, right? That'd be like, what is that, 50 then maybe? Is that like 50? Is that what that is? Calculate the results. That's 266. I can get there. Let me just get that around the hundo. No. 69! We're just going to calculate that. 367! Yeah, I just wanted to do it. See here. We'll get the old 91 out. Yeah, bump it up. Oh yeah, we got the 485. I just have to manage certain torque values. Got 1, 2, 3. Hey, suck my dick. Yeah, I'm a dick like that. Anyways, I'm just having fun now. 152. We're getting hike. Oh, it's 810. Oh no. That's too far. We can't do that. We can't do that. We got 142 here. 142. 757. We're so close. We're so fucking close. We're dialing it in. This is me and my engine tuning. I just have to hit certain torque values. 145. No, fuck it. 146. We'll go for it. Oh my god, it's slightly too high. 145. 773. Oh, fucking shit. 145 point fucking, what is this? What are we gonna do? 5? Let's do a 5. 175.57. You mean 7? 7, that's correct. 175.7. We're gonna get there though, folks. We're gonna get there. It's okay. We're getting there. 145.8. 177.3. Yes! 145.8 is 777.3. That is your fucking horsepower from 28K, which will be its maximum red line at 30K. But I really doubt that you would actually do it because you're probably at the red line around that 28 to 25, 28.5. You know what I mean? Anyways, point 8, you're going to hit 145.8 fucking foot-pounds. And you're going to hit 28K RPM, getting that 777 horses. Meanwhile, I'm also a regular person that's like, did I just say it's only like fucking 250 to 300 pounds at best? With like a fucking 30-gallon gas tank. I didn't say that part. And you say, no, it's okay, guys. Because it's only got 145.8 torques. It weighs nothing. It's okay, it's got torque factory. That's true. And yet, at the same time, it's gonna be so rough on people. No, guys, it's good. It's good. It's just dump it for fuck you. Dump that? You're a fucking lunatic. Okay, what gear? 5th gear, probably. You probably want 5th gear. You dump it from what, about like 75? I was thinking about 10. 95, 10, something like that. No! Look at them drag race. They're drag racing today. Just straight drag racing. Good times, Didn't know I wanted that. A good 30-gallon gas tank, huh? Yeah, no, I gotta fucking supply it somehow. Freaking N-Light 8 level of burning fuel. God, only 1.2 liters, though. Brake mean effective pressure is within nominal levels, so it's fine. It's totally doable. Totally doable. I also get the feeling that people really wouldn't understand, where it's like, why is the weight so far forward? Because your dumbass weighs more than an engine, and the transmission, and the exhaust at that point. Like, for what it's worth, like, all that told would probably only be about 100 pounds, and if you're 6'4" like me, and I'm 200, there's no way. If anything, it's more balanced. You're not launching from that, yeah. Look at my feet. Nice little recline. I gotta put them up here, but that's okay. Honestly, you can do that. Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be a little bit more teardroppy shape for where the saddle is and where your butt sits. A nice little harder, like a hearty kind of shape to the teardrop that goes to that. Sort of like a weird hourglass. You lean the little headrest and then arm rests, because that'd be so fucking pleasant. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good, man. It's nice. Like, I can just imagine it right the hell now. Fuck, I'd be pushing myself pretty far forward. But, that's okay. Like, I can do that. There's nothing saying I can't do that. Yeah. So, yeah. Totally doable. Huh. Sweet. Anyways, there's the concept. Nice little raucous ride of stimulation of the ADHD variety. Good old ADHD fixation stimulation stuff. Man, I love it. I'm just, this guy is I bet you they're probably wondering if I can do an anti-gyroscopic effect. that kind of thing, right? And I'm like, yeah, I could easily do that. There's nothing stopping me from doing it. In fact, so I have it connected on one side versus the other. It's a pivoting system. So whatever. I can absolutely do that. There's nothing stating I can't do that. I can have gear, I can have all of that there. There's nothing saying I can't do this. Especially when you have air injectors. It's a direct injection, basically. And port injection, which wouldn't really be there. Not really, no. No, not really. Fuck port injection. Yeah. Right? I can easily dynamically tune this to a pretty darn high fucking torque figure. I mean, it's all fitting within those values and material design and everything, but then it's like, well, I got the lubrication thing. It's like, how are you lubricating it? And it's like, well, the elephant in the room is the connecting rods are hollow, and I'm just basically having them go through an oil pump squirter that pushes them in. You know what I mean? And then it goes to like little sliding ring valves along the side near the outside, and or at some point, either near a bottom dead or a top dead center, where it shoves in the oil into where these little, like a two-stroke is, gap or holes in the side of the cylinder walls that would then, have it flush out and go into the oil rings and still lubricate everything and still cool everything too. So it all has to just work at the nice little pause moments, which could still be done. So nothing wrong with that. It's all about pressures. And pressures would be able to be maintained considering the speed. Some of these gears could be going and need the lubricant anyways, which would be the balancing oil pump thing they talk about, and the inertial dampening F1 suspension thing. So like all of it can be done. It's fully balanced. It's rotating ring valves. It's fully fucking balanced. This is stupidly balanced. There is no other balancing effectively that could be done as best as I can do it. All of your balancing is not as good as mine. Look at me, as all things should be. Just over here. I'm moving on. So that was fun though. I don't know, I'm like looking at everything I can look at right now to see if, in my head, as I'm, putting the concept kind of quickly more in focus in my head. All the little pieces I described and had to put this over here in between the leg area for the nitrogen filter. This is where the air for the super turbo would go through. It should be fine. That can fit like basically right where the area of the radiators is for the nitrogen, and it's still cooled for the outside. Alright, intake go right to, and it's the compressor going there. That'd be near the bottom because I need support off of something at the bottom where the engine is. So that would be effectively my supportive air intake ram air area. And then the top in between where the seat is, that'd be the cooled oxygen rich air would go into the distributor air manifold system for the air injectors. That should be just like a kind of radiator almost. It could go like up the middle, off the sides, right? And then it have like a curve top towards the middle, and then a little bunch of little lines to the air injector. So a trifurcation, right? And then each one of those has to do the bifurcation to each other air injector with the, at least with the bifurcation area before it'd be the one-way valve setups. So that way, if any of them failed, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But during that, that means when it intakes, because it has to fire 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, the next set of air would just go off to the next injectors to feed them a little better. It's a little more complicated on that side, but you wouldn't necessarily need it, but then why wouldn't you do it? You know what I mean? Yeah. See here, and then that's just, basically lower likely to be oxidized quartz or glass inside of that, like fiber glass, coated with epoxy around a probably stainless steel, I guess, or some other harder, like aluminum, hard line tube kind of thing. Well, I've got 3 radiators, so that'd be series and parallel to make that happen, and I have at least 2 redundant to the 1 main thermal couple, and a secondary mechanical pump, just in case the dampeners and all that fail. Tri-sump, of course, gotta have it. You gotta cool the oil behind the radiator, and then, of course, in front of that is gonna be the water radiators. Still will help as like a shrouding kind of thing for diverting a little bit more air off, because they can be just as curved, just a little bit more angled, right, for the water cooling on one side and the other. That'll be fine. I can put the super turbo a little bit further forward with an axle, a little bit further towards that bottom from where the headlight would be. So since it already has to go through that into the nitrogen would have to have it go from bottom up after it goes through cooling from the charger, the compressor. It goes like a down tube, because you need it as a down tube. So that's like, then the gas, the top, that would be where the gas tank is. It's like down tube, compressor, nitrogen filter. That's another type of tube. I can just kind of strengthen it with a little bit of aluminum cooling fins, right, and separate it with the nitrogen. And then it's the oxygen that goes off. Because like just before, I'll cool it with a liquid cooling, water cooling, right? And then after with the oxygen, I can cool it right off of that, and then that can dump from the other top and go over to where the saddle is, just underneath where the gas tank would be. So that would be a little bit rough, truthfully. Instead, I think I'm going to switch that. I don't want that oxygen-rich gas going anywhere near gas. So instead, I'm going to have the ram air go for that down tube to the charger. Instead, that'll be a differential with a conical gear set. That'll dump it off. And that'll go through everything. Right. And then that can then go snake underneath from going up at top, down, bottom, after it goes through its first liquid, then the second liquid. So, first liquid, then nitrogen, then second liquid, then it goes into the injector system, which now has a straighter path from bottom. But that means I can use it on the side, and then I have like another structural support for the radiator. So the radiator becomes the structural support like I was talking about. I have the air shroud right down there, at the bottom and off to the sides, so it looks a little bit more like a sport bike. So that'll work. And then fender, along with little air shrouds with the fork, will help push air and capture a little bit more air either around or into the radiator area. And a little bit of a shroud on the sides now, that the air captured on the outside, and then that doesn't go through the radiator will go around where the shrouds are. That way it all joins in. Have that little extra bit of air sucked in from the bottom, along the sides, in through where the pipe is, into where, because of course I have to have the structural support for the coolant. Remember the coolant? So you remember the side for the radiator? That's the hard line structural support for the engine. That's why it's structural. The radiators are made from structural material too around the outside, but then that also gets me the coolant. Anyways, just wanted to specify that, but that's also why the tube runs in between. That's our air structural support. That's why it's only so big. So I don't need it to be that big, right? It just needs to be fiberglass, a little bit of aluminum. Same thing for the other. So anyways, I'm going to move on. Anyways, that goes from bottom up, and then the rest of the air I can get around from the sides and the bottom to go get forced into where the engine area is and push from one side all the way up through in between where the seats are and the exhaust is for the exhaust manifold, and also where the heat shield is and the exhaust manifold turbo, and that will go from the sides also into that from back behind the driver's legs and back into where the exhaust manifold tube area thing is, and muffler, high flow, all that to the very rear, which more a little bit more like that sport bike cafe racer type look as the tip exhaust muffler tip combo thing, right? All right, that's how that would work, especially with a little windscreen that's going to be a little bit bigger. So like this is going to go up a little higher, it's a little bit wider with a little bit of this structural composite, like a fiberglass instead of aluminum, because like that'd be easier honestly, or some other type of lighter weight composite, but that means it won't bend as much, and I can make it thinner, I can make that thinner. I just need to make sure I put like a nice little lensing. I call it like a Lorentz lens. So it's like it'll make it seem like it's not there when you're sitting down, but when you're standing up, you can see it and it's there. Right? That also means I can put this cool thing called a mirror. I have a rear view mirror on my windscreen, along with side mirrors, of course, because, just in case. Then I can put in 2 extra little ram mirrors around the, so it's like I don't have just the one in the center and around the ring light, also around the sides where the handlebars, like that kind of like Ducati kind of style, but it's not really, it's more like a tour. Anyways, doesn't matter. Around the sides there, right, or where the windscreen kind of all that is, which will help break up some of the air dynamic pressure as it's trying to move over even further and bounce off the sides. Now it gets sucked in. Not just in the center, but also around that little curved, like fish gill side. That's a nice ram air, right? A nice longer handlebar. I'm going to have to widen it and then lift it up and then bring it back down to have it curve just a little bit, kind of like a little S, and then angle it down and off to the side. I want to see standing or recline would be a nice, there we go. Yeah, no, I definitely want a little bit more vertical, that I can kind of push it. I don't want it too angled. I definitely don't want it too angled. That's for sure. Yeah. So that means more vertical for sure. That'd be a lot nicer ergonomically as I'm leaning backwards. Yeah. So that'd be nice. And of course, same thing for like the arm and the head. I mean, this in person, so they need a bit of a extendo backrest. So like that would be laying flat and then it slides forward, and then when they actually want to sit there, that slides back and then sticks up and then it slots in, and then it folds out, and then that fold out has these tiny little armrests that slide forward when you pop up the headrest just a little bit from the inside of the backrest. So that way I can get the person a little bit closer to where the backrest is for the rider, driver position, and they can slot in a little bit further deep in and lean themselves a little bit as well. They're still going to be more vertical, but they should still be able to do that. And they'll now, finally, unlike before, be in between the two wheels because I have the inline 4 instead of the big honking 1.2 liter single cylinder that looks very phallic, by the way. Alright, so there we go. I finally got it. Like, now it can definitely be a 2-seater with like a nice lean back, and they could freaking ride with me. If anything, it's like, we're leading this one. Get the nice turn signals. Gotta have the turn signals, alright? Gotta have them, alright? I got the regular light and headlight stuff situation taken care of, with a secondary, just in case that fails, light system on the mirrors. So that way, just in case one of these things fails, I've got 2 others. And then nice little turn signal on the mirrors and on the, I'll just do the mirrors, like the rim on the outside of the mirrors, the very outside, right? And that way, that will be something that you can also see. It's going to be built for a bigger person, 6'4", but now it's compact. Like, for what it's worth, I don't need it to be nearly as long anymore. It's quite a bit more compact than before, by a lot. Right? It's essentially the same size as a regular sport touring or adventure touring bike. In fact, it'd be smaller. You're right, it's not. It'd be smaller. But that being said, even though it can fit a person my size and probably a few more inches, if I really wanted to, because that's about where the legs land, right? It could also fit those smaller individuals who are probably about 5'4" max. Can't really do 12-inch difference as easily as you think. But it can be done. It's really more about where the seating position and so on is. But I'm going to move on. Because there you go. Now you have a brand new inline 4 that could easily make reclining seating positions totally doable, that are absolutely also placed in a very odd place for most of you, I would imagine. And it's like, oh, it's counter to the convention, absolutely. But you know what? I bet you probably want this as a 2-seater tour, cruiser, adventure, because, like, actually it's lifted up pretty high. You know what I mean? So you can't really do the stand up and balance. So you probably don't want to do any of that. But you could definitely ride it to, like, any campground, because saddlebags are totally possible, bro. Considering off to the side and at the top, you're not going to have any issues with anything melting, which is nice. And you have all the torque for a trailer if you wanted to. And here you go. Boop. What is that? A tiny little truck, mini, all these other tiny little friggin' K cars and stuff. And smart cars, fuck it, all of them. Fuck your Hayabusa, bro. You think that 1.2 liter makes enough? Why don't you have like 2,500 plus fucking horsies? Why don't you just get on our level? Why don't you just do that? Why don't you? Anyways, most likely be the one that I don't know, man. Jesus, fuck you too. How hard it is for a big fucking car to have this thing weighs nothing. It's like in a power. What do you want me? Just get on my level and do it. Just get on my level and do it. Moving on. I think that would really be genuinely it. Thank you for sticking around at this point. Just because, like, I'm sure you probably went on one hell of a ride if you listened to all of this. You know, please like and subscribe. Watch my other videos. Recommend me. Put on the bell for notifications and all that. I would greatly appreciate it. I'd love to grow. You have no idea how much I want to be seen and have paid attention to me. Maybe even get money for my efforts. Who knows? Maybe I'll have enough money from that to maybe build these concepts. That would be nice, and maybe I then could do more money from that by selling them like a business. Here's my business plan, folks. My channel sells fucking racing parts I design. It's called the Xenon Reality and Xenon Reality Color Racing Brand. That's right, the racing brand of Xenon. It's not a joke. I'm gonna do it. Like, or maybe call it something else. But like, the point is like, I would do it. I'm not gonna not do it. You know what I mean? But that's just because I know I'm good at stuff on that side. It's really just designing a little bit further onto CAD and then getting like a CNC and the right money for all the parts to be there and then doing the thing. I could easily make this. This is not that difficult for me. Other people apparently would be a little bit more difficult. I keep forgetting, like, you know, as much as I do the degrading language, that not as many people actually know as much as I'm talking about as I fucking say they do. It's like, I don't think you know, man. Fuck you too. Anyways, that's a fully balanced, no gyroscopic. Fucking holy hell, I know. Jeez. Just be super cool though. I'd love it. Yeah. It's a fully sealed, oiled system. I mean, that'd be what it is oil would be here and there, and it'd never be like empty space practically, except for only necessary empty spaces. Because then it's all clamped and tighter, more sealed. It's a bike engine or any other car engine. But that's also good because then it's like, oh, I just dunk two parts of it. And then it's like, oh, yeah, no, okay. Right? And just stick them in the right places and it's done. Right, for gears and the axle stuff and the pivot stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't really need it like before. Or it's like, I have to... It's like, junk. Any fucking problems, they're right there. Oh, let me... There's one head, there's another... You know what I mean? Drain my oil. That's pretty simple, truthfully. Drain my coolant. That's pretty fucking simple, truthfully. There's my coolant line over there and my oil line right there. It's right there in the bottom of the bike. That'd be pretty fucking simple to get to. You know what I mean? Just put it at the top there. Just lift up the seat. It's the oil of it. It's good. Fuck it. It's the coolant line. Oh, that's fine. Hydraulic. Oh, yeah. The thingy's still there and clear, and it says, yes, stuff's there. Pretty sure that's all working. Yeah. You know, I can just put like a fluid flow monitor in the ECU, you know, with a little nice little sensor, right? Man, that is a way more compact design, though, than I would have thought. Considering, like, I can make it such that, like, all of that's essentially, like, a down combined tube. Because, like, there's nothing saying for the return after it's cooled, engine coolant, and the oil coolant. couldn't be right where the air kind of is, right? So, and then like the bottom part, that would be the oxygen rich air. So, you know what I mean? And same thing for like the forward hotter, but it's like, do I want the hotter there or do I want the colder? You probably want the colder. So it's like, fuck it. I'll put the hotter up at the top and the down, you know, for the ram air. That'll be fine. I see what I'm trying to do for its worth, because it's like, well, you know, do you really? I don't know. Point is, I don't really need quite the same kind of thing, because I don't really need the down, but then I need the spine tube, as I like to call it, and that'll be where it connects at the top of the engine, for what it's worth. But that's the return of the oil and coolant, which is the spine tube now. Especially with my gas tank supportive structure member gas tank. So let's just also work with the spine tube. Good old spine tubes, am I right, folks? But they're hidden, which is nice. So all of that would work. Like, honestly, I can even put like a nice little chin thing right there, where the fucking, you know, especially with the fender, it can have it, you know, kind of angle off just a little bit where that little chin thing is at the bottom, where the tube is, right? So that way, like, that diverts air around, and it keeps it from being hot or hit by any rocks or debris, right? So it's like, that'd work. Same thing with the little fender thing. It's like, that's not a bad idea. A nice little aerodynamic tuck in with the boundary layer to where the radiators are. You kind of want that, yeah. Now, let's see here. Yeah, no, I think that's done. You know, like, that would genuinely be done at that point. Yeah, because, like, then it's just the arm for the pivoting, and one part's the pivot for, like, the shock and spring, right? And then the other is the axle with the CVT conical kind of thing from the transmission, and both of those are supportive to the exhaust manifold, which is supportive, which you happen to rest on top of, which is also supportive. Lots of supportive structures here. What isn't supportive here? That's definitely doing a job at one point. I don't know of anyone except for the handlebars at that point. Even then, I'm going to be like, yes, I tuck away all of my electronic cables and my hydraulic fluid stuffs as I push it down, and then go to the rear with, like, around the fucking exhaust off the side kind of shroud thing, and you kind of tuck it in there. Yeah, that's where the fucking brakes are. Yeah. Same thing with the front. Yeah, just in the near forks. Oh yeah. Get the front and rear brakes, you know. I usually do a double clutch. I suppose I can do a semi-double clutch. So what that means is, like, it's a double clutch that I can change to a regular manual, which means I can just up, 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 down, 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 that kind of thing, right? But then it's also, yeah, no, but if you don't really want to do that, you want to add in the clutch and so on, then you can do this. Then I'll do again the analog for certain, like, you know, gauge clusters, right? And then regular digital. You know, so that way you have that. You're going to have that AFR, but that's going to have to be tuned different. All of that's going to have to be tuned. But it's like, where's the... It's in the cowling, right? It's underneath the seat for the driver, towards the rear where the back is, and that's also where, like, the battery is underneath where the butt is. Okay, and you can move that down to where the butt or the engine cowling, for what it's worth, or not the engine cowling. I think you meant the fork windscreen person that said that. And if you did, that's what that would be, just as an FYI. Oh wait, it's cold. Ish. It's going to have those little radiator heatsink fins, but that's fine. And then that also means I have the ability to cover it with the heatsink fins that make sure it doesn't break if any rocks or anything get into it. Yeah, I can put more battery there too if I needed to, which is fine. Same thing for the ECU, engine control unit, which is just fine. It had to be a little bit better. I need a little bit more monitoring for any given failure of any given of the air injectors or regular direct injector types, which means I can also run off of almost any fuel. Like, for what it's worth, I'd be able to run off of, like, literally almost any fuel. Actually, regular gaseous, liquid, and liquid, solid, and gaseous hybrid I'd still be able to do. Which would basically charcoal ground up with a given amount of liquid there that's under pressure that then gives me a soda bubble effect for the given propane or some other gaseous butane, something like that. To be able to allow for a better mixture and air-fuel ratios that I would prefer. I just have to be able to put it into the tank and then have another tank for the pressurization effect. So I probably wouldn't do it. I could still do it if the injectors didn't come up. Anyways, I'm going to move on. Point is, I would just do regular gaseous or liquid. It all depends on the type of direct injector you put in there. That's the only thing that would really matter on that one. And then you telling it, what fuel you are using? So it goes, oh, this air-fuel ratio. Okay. Meanwhile, me with my nitrogen filter. What's that over there? Hydrogen? You got hydrogen? I only need 7 of those, like, 2 or 1 liter bottles that Intexa did. Now that I have a hydrogen, gas tank that's supported, it was just going to be a pressurized gas cap that you put in a pressurized. Anyways, moving on, because then it would turn into, look, this nitrogen filter now just removes, like, effectively all of the nitrogen. Like, it's really high flow rate, but it's also really high efficiency, which is great. And it's like, look at this. This is where remember that tube that I talked about that's kind of supportive? Well, this is like the non-supportive area. And like, oh my God, is this a big conical, massive, ginormous, holy hell, what the fuck? Size diesel, like ram air filter? Right behind where my light and all the rest of it is for the windscreen. Okay, fine. I suppose that could be a thing, I guess. So it's like, I'm going to filter my air, and then it's going to go into a fucking parabolic funnel? Like a hypervelocity stack of some kind? From the ram air into a velocity stack that goes into a tube, that goes into a fucking compressor? Holy fucking shit, I think I can do that. It goes right off into, what is this, a fucking cooler? Of all things? Into a filter for nitrogen? Of all fucking things? What is it? Whoa. That's hardline tubing for the fucking nitrogen? That goes right into the engine? With a blow-off valve? It's really just a one-way blow-off valve. And then it goes into a tank for the oxygen, and then it has a one-directional fucking valve from that tank, but also from the filter into the tank, but then from the tank into the fucking cooling that goes into the engine. If I need a blow-off valve, I suppose I'll just put it there where the manifold is. I suppose my throttle input will just be this thing called more pulses in duration. at various places because I can measure it with each one of the given pivoting systems and the movement of those gears. That means I have exactingly precise top, middle, and dead center from intake, power, and exhaust strokes. For the programming of my ECU, so that's probably easy enough to do. That's my new type of crankshaft sensor. So totally doable. Turns out you were wrong if you thought that wasn't. Suck it up, bitch. I'll just put 2 of them there, 1 redundancy for each one of them. That way I even know when the power stroke is going extra hard on that extendo. Length, baby. Atkins cycles. Look at me. I also happen to have the Lemke cycle because it's both one side and the other for that Atkins cycle for when it's power stroking. 2 Atkins cycles, baby. Do the Lemke cycle. Do the Lemke cycle. You gotta do 1 and a 2. The crossplane. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. It's like a potato. You get it. You get it. It's gonna be set up like a potato. Like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Before 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. My non-sensing senses are definitely gone now. You're such a fucking dick. How did you do that? How did you do that? Says some douche fuck in the comments probably. If they ever got to this point. Good old commenters, here for the degrading language. Yeah, I know my audience in no way, it seems like. I'll move on. It's like, how do I do that? Well, if I have to have the gear and the whole like little lobe and all that stuff that's oddly shaped to do that, that means on an opposite side I have to be able to do it, right? For the pivoting. So it's like 1 power stroke down, and then this would be a power stroke up on another side as it exhausts off to a center area. So like this would be a power stroke, but that would be, you know what I mean? Like that's how that would have to work. So it's like there's still going to be nitrogen that goes in at times because like of course there's the 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But it's not of course going to fire that way, right? Yeah. But it's like, okay, so it'd be probably 1, 3, 2, and 4, right? Standard, right? Right. But that means I can do 1 down, then I can do, as 1 goes down, I can do a 2, or in this instance, 3 up, right? And so like, it's like I have a parallel now, but it'd have to be slightly offset. But it'd be more of a boom, 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 right? But I don't really want to do that. I would rather it be offset for a true 4-stroke instead of a 2-stroke, which is what that would really be, okay? Instead of having it be a 2-stroke, I want it to be a 4-stroke. I said I could make it act like a 4-stroke. I suppose that would be an engine dynamic thing, because then the nitrogen has to go somewhere, which now is just going to go into turbines. So, but it's like, that means I can cool it a little bit better. So I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can offset that with the exhaust going into one of the other cylinder banks, but then I can have nitrogen go into one of the other cylinder banks as I have the opposite side finally burn. See what I'm saying? So it's like 1, and then that would have been nitrogen underneath 1, and then 3, which would have been finally going, right? But that would have had the exhaust try and push off into, as it intakes up number 1 again. Right. So number one into number one, number three, it does the whole cycle, and then it would change off into the rear. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, or 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, standard, simple stuff kind of thing, right? It's just oppositing where it burns. So that bottom side exhaust would then dump off into the top this time. And it'd still have nitrogen at the top every so often. That helps with cooling and way better efficiency, thermal cycling. You know what I mean? Because like that nitrogen can soak up just as much as the fuel will. So that way, all of it's good to go. So I'm trying to do a two-stroke now, which is what that would really be. Although I don't know if I really want that. Especially when it's like, well, if I did the two-stroke, for sure I'm going over 2,500 freaking horsepower. I don't really want that. 4, I was going to be able to do it anyways. You know. So. But at least now I'm using less fuel and I'm far more efficient. That's the good part. That's the real part. I mean, deep red. Hard deep red in the efficiencies here. I'm getting that 70% back. Oh yeah, especially for an engine that now is going to weigh, well, it's more compact. It's going to weigh the same amount as a regular 1.2 liter. You know what I mean? Because I have 5 turbines effectively. And a super turbo that's like basically required and necessary to make this freaking engine block actually work. Like, there's no running this engine without a super turbo. Are you trying to run this without a super turbo? For shame. Not really, but for shame. It's a good thing the compressor is dynamic, which would basically be based upon the gears, the axle, and that kind of thing, but then also the size that you're looking for. It's like, well, I'm going to be more higher RPM on average, although it's really supposed to be like an idle at 500, and then it can go all the way up to 28, which is going to get there pretty fast, most likely, because it's oxygen rich and then all that, so... But that's good because that means oil cooling is right there. I can get fresh oil that's cold right to my turbo compressor and to my turbos in the rear of the turbines, which is not really there. I'm getting it to the turbines though. You knew what I meant. And it'll just spread throughout the rest of the engine. It's fine. Here's some coolant too. Just directly to the freaking goddamn, there's just front of the engine, and then over to the other side of the engine. One side really to the other. Yeah, that'll work. All that works. That's good. And it's just intake and all that on one side, and then exhaust on the other side, so that'll be fine. True. It'll work. Everything will work. Everything's working. Yeah. Yeah, especially when I have like a support to like where the transmission is in between the turbines and an engine and the transmission, which is essentially so it'd be like a triple vacuum with a ceramic on one side and the other, and then it'd have to be like, I guess, a stainless steel or something, so that way it really reduces the vast majority of heat. But it's also stiff, and it'd be light enough. I'd have to have steel, mostly because steel is higher heat capacity and stronger for the thinness of the material I would be having. Yeah, which would work. So all of it's working. What do you know? Turns out I am gifted in the department of design concepts, mechanical engineering, physics, and many other things, it seems. I think that would be it. Like, honestly, I don't think I can do much more because then it's just basic feet and, clutch, brake, handlebar, all that stuff, standard stuff. It's just linkages, really. Yeah, because I'd probably use hydraulics, if I'm going to be honest, instead of like a solid, like, metal piece. I'd just use hydraulics. I mean, if they work for brakes, why wouldn't I use hydraulics? That way I can move them around and have them be kind of a part of the structural parts that are right next to there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, a little tube here, a little tube there. A little tube on tube action, right? A little frottage, Little hot dog and a bun, you know what I'm saying? Well, I love it. I love it. I love it. We gotta do it. I want to make it so bad now. This sucks. I don't have any money. I could easily do it. You could do it right now. This would be such a good project. I'd make so much fucking money if I ever sold it too. I don't know if I'd ever sell it though. Especially when it's like, well, do you really want that kind of level of power? Yeah, I'm gonna probably put this in an actual like vehicle eventually. Like, oh, you said 500 foot-pounds of torque? Hey, yeet! Right into my fucking van. Brrr. Let me just power up a fucking steep mountain. What are you kidding me? I'm gonna go camp up here. You think I'm gonna fucking stop? Look at my 2,500 horses. I'm getting up there. Yeah. So there you go. I mean, it'd be perfect for UAVs too. And in all types of aircraft because it doesn't have any gyroscopic drag. Like it's not as hard to turn it, which means it'll turn a lot faster, which means it has better aerodynamic characteristics. Which means I also happen to have for the given weight, of course. I mean, it's 1.2 liters. I mean, gosh, guys, come on. I'll outperform the liquid piston. It's a good thing I have air cooling, hybrid and liquid air cooling. You know what I mean? For the exhaust manifold in between. And then, oh yeah, this is something I didn't really talk about, but like the manifold, the intake manifold, right, wouldn't really be, just be basically a bunch of tubes to it. So it's like the rest of it would essentially be a bunch of heatsink fins. And it'd be liquid coolant going one side and the other side, right? That kind of thing. And yeah, so I can also cool it with the hard lines that are structural. Did you say, oh, fuck off? I think I heard you say, oh, fuck off out there. You mean cooling and more cooling of my engine that you thought I couldn't possibly cool enough with my 3 radiators in series and parallel, which really only needs to be a thermocouple too, with the 2 extra thermocouple redundancies to the other extra 2. So it's like, I'm gonna go here and then eventually get to a high enough temperature to go to the second one, and if I really needed that extra, it'd go to the third bigger one in the rear. Not to mention, it's like, I have a fan tucked away in there, and if I move in any kind of way, I still blow air into the engine. In fact, the fan will still blow air into the engine. So there's that. And I'm also cooling that oil, and the nitrogen filter, and the air, and even the exhaust. And also those disc brakes. That is correct. Oh my goodness. Crazy. I guess a lot of people thought I couldn't cool this, but actually, I definitely can. And you were wrong. Suck it up, wrong person who's incorrect and wrong. Whew. My goodness gracious. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. Even though I don't have any of the qualifications or certificates or certifications for a mechanical engineer, engineering school, or any of the rest of it, I still apparently know my shit. Did it irk you that I said I know what I'm doing, even though I don't have your little papers? Did it? Because I felt like it did. People often like you that use those as gatekeeping little ego checks for yourself to feel better about yourself and feel that you are definitely better than others would probably be irked by me saying I'm gifted. Anyways, slap. Why don't you sit down? Alright, let me see here. I'm just seeing if I forgot anything. Because I need the air shrouds, I need where I put my... I need to make it more comfortable. So where I put my legs, I need them to be able to be adjusted along with the seat. I want them to be padded a little bit because I don't want them to be hanging, and I want them to be able to be such that the person is more comfortable, but I only need them in the right places, like where the calf is, instead of the whole fucking damn leg. You know what I mean? So that'd be like more of a spring tensioner, most likely, in like a little moving kind of like system. So that way, like, you can move them around and they could still bounce and be shock and padded. And it's fine, and it doesn't matter where they land so long as you just adjust the spring tension. So go a little bit lower, and then you'd be able to bolt it a little bit lower, that kind of thing. Same thing for the person that sits behind you, if they're there. So it's like that'd be hanging off the sides. Considering the intake's now at the bottom, it should be fine, especially with the ram air that's in the fucking windscreen. I mean, the intake's at the top, but, you know, that's what that is. I might as well put a diffusal a little bit there, right? Because I'm going to have a little bit of that air come up from the bottom, from that chin, right? As it splits at the bottom, it can also suck in at the split at the top and kind of like depressurize some of that with a little bit of extra air that runs around where the structural supportive hardline tubing that is for the radiator and engine coolant and oil and the hydraulic fluid that would be for your pedals assembly, for clutch and all that. So it's like, all right, well, I'd be able to divert it around that, which would help cool it anyways, right? From the radiator area and the splitter, because you want to make sure that doesn't hit where the compressor or the gas that's highly oxygenated happens to be. Besides, I would definitely want that just in case anyways. It looks cool. Yeah, I mean, there's a little splitter, but then those are little scoop air things, right? And then the bottom, and then that would help, curve it up to where a little scoop split kind of thing is, right? And then that separates to the other rear, which would be trying to drag it like a little teardroppy shape curve would be, as it would be divoted in like your knuckles are. Like you look at your knuckles and your fist, when you close your fist, you got the little divots for the little channels grooving. So it's like it'd have to go in, and then that would go towards where the exhaust is, versus the next splitter towards where the, rear would be. You have to put your transmission somewhere, but it's like it's hanging off the engine, but then I also have the supportive member of both, not just the hard line, but then underneath the little cradle, which this would be where the splitter for the air is, which would have to be off of something. So there would be tubes there that are not structural supportive. Oh wait, no, yes they are. They just don't do anything with the engine and all that. But they still support where the separator insulator piece is between the turbine and the exhaust is. Then I still need where the fender is. So I'll just do like a little extra piece right there from where the fender is and the exhaust is. So that way it hooks in more air to where the exhaust is. I have to have it on the side anyways, right? And then that can tuck in the exhaust behind something to make it look a little nicer. That way, my structural supportive member of the seats can be supported by the structural supportive member of the exhaust separator from the rear wheel and all the rest. So it's all supportive of each other. One supports another, and that supports itself as well, and that supports itself as well. But, that kind of thing. They all work better when they support each other. Especially with these air shrouds here that are going to be supportive, you guessed it, with a internal roll cage-like structure. But it's not roll cage. They're just supportive structures that have a plastic, who would have thought, structure around it. Making it so that way it can make everything thinner and lighter. Oh, yeah! Hip thrusting into the air. All right. Then, so I want to cool those. So I'll use the vacuum spring tensioner with a little bit of extra air pressure somewhere. And then I can use the liquid, for the around the outside for the shocks, right? Just put a little bit of this. What is this? It's a fucking heat sink that's in the line and direction of the air. That helps cool it more often. So you happen to go around a bunch of bumpity bumps. Shocker. Same thing over here with this. What is this? An axle housing for this shock and spring on the other side. That's supporting it instead of a one singular arm. I've got two arms, but they're good to go, brah. I mean, it's a little bit heavier. Okay, so, what was that? Is this aluminum? A little bit of steel in the right places on that shock and spring that uses a vacuum and a little bit of air pressure and some hydraulic fluid with a little bit of air cooling. With a conical differential and I can move like a fucking independent lengths of it. Okay, so it can be done. It can be done. It can totally be done. With the axles, it's just in the center, with the rim and the fender and the I know. It would look like that. Yeah, that'd be totally. I mean, I can see it right now in my head. I'm not even kidding. I can literally see it in my head right now. That's mine. For sure. It's my design, Xenon Reality's design. Suck it up, buttercups. I can definitely not want you to fucking take it. It's mine. Don't steal my shit. I'm trying to get on SSI, Social Security income, you little fucker. I don't have money. This isn't a competition. Stop being a jerk, you little fuck up. I'll make sure everybody knows where you got this. No one will ever buy that bike and they'll wait for me to make it. Go fuck yourself if you think you're gonna fucking take my shit. Moving on, because of course I'm a little paranoid since I've seen more than enough of that happen in regular everyday life for even smaller people than I who were never believed and had to fight hard in court with a bunch of fucktards that really thought that they weren't as good as they were because XYZ qualifier gatekeeping and they're not the business or so on and so forth. See what I'm saying? There you go. Deal with it. Now, I'll talk about this a little bit more, but not much more. And I mean that. Because it's like, well, we're pretty much done. And like the entire thing is pretty much done here. Like literally almost the entire fucking thing. Yeah. So it's just a nice little design. Like if you think I get stimulated, it's like, oh man, you're on all the drugs, blah 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 blah. Well, I did have 2 shots of espresso before I made this, for what it was worth. So that might help. But it's also like, I really find engines and design and concept work and all that stuff stimulating for me. It's something I can do. Nobody really ever pays for you to do it. And if you're really good at it, you have to have a bunch of qualifiers and all this other stuff that you did before for anybody to believe that you're good at it. Unlike me, who's just like, pow, I'm right here. I'm fucking amazing. Why don't you just know? How come you can't just fucking figure it out immediately like I do in like an hour or 2 at most? How come you're just not as good as I am? Or as smart or as intelligent? Degrading language. That's my audience. You should really check out my Reddit. But you don't have to. Anyways, please like and subscribe. The only thing I'll talk about more is those seats, which are going to be suspension. So they're going to hang off of like a vacuum suspension, and then like a padding and a little bit of like effectively very good cloth, like a canvas that's epoxied, or like kind of rubber or silicone epoxy kind of thing, and then padding that's there that you sit on top of. That's got a vegan leather, or protein leather, more specifically vegan protein leather. I prefer that. Then it'd be, because that's actually fairly cheap. It's not that expensive, much more, in fact, if at all, than vinyl. So it's always the right call to do it. Then it's like, all right, so that'd have to be in multiple little sections around the sides, but then a little bit on the inside as well. And then I can use like another type of spring suspension that's more of a squishier kind of silicone kind of gasket kind of thing, and throughout the middle. That way I have multiple little parts that would be nice and firm but also soft, but then I'm going to have a gimbal. That's right. So it'll be any given pivot in the center that can go left, right, forward, and gimbal around just a little bit with like little suspension areas like I talked about for that. So that way it's a lot softer and it really becomes much smoother traveling, right? So it's supposed to be more of a touring cruiser kind of adventure-ish, but not really like that adventure, truthfully. Kind of bike, right? Motorcycle, yeah. You can still take it to a track, stiffen everything up if you want to. Headrest is fine. There's no reason not to do that, especially with arm rests. It's like, ooh my gosh. I love that so much. The recline, have little armrests. I've got like the best fucking seat, just like, yeah. Look how low to the ground I am. Woo! Oh shit, I keep forgetting I can easily turn this from side to side. Takes nothing. It weighs like nothing. It's like, I thought you were going to say it only weighs like 150 pounds. I was like, no, 250 to maybe 300, truthfully. Especially with a 30-gallon gas tank here. Yeah, standard 30-gallon gas tank. You gotta have it, obviously. Well, how far are you planning on taking this? Well, it's a reclining, super comfortable seat with big fat tires, which are going to be a 5-inch sidewall in the front, and then a 4 in the rear, and then a 5-inch tread width, right? And then it's going to be a decently sized large rim. So that way it's like, well, you can really just enjoy things. Normally they wouldn't want that. You can always put smaller ones on, but that's what it's supposed to be with. It's up to you. Personally, I like them just because it's like, well, they're huge. Oh yeah, no, they're meant to be big. They're like 26 inches to like fucking 32 inches. The tires, not so much the rim, but like the tires. It's gonna be real comfortable. Really drop down that pressure, and yeah, really get to just soak in. So 30-gallon gas tank makes sense at that point. Just cruise touring, just enjoying all of it as you see all the sights and sounds. Yeah, I even got a reverse gear for you. For its worth, I also put like little tiny training wheels on the kickstand. They're not really training wheels, but like they're kind of training wheels. They're more like caster wheels, so you can reverse easily once you sit in. They reverse nice, and then you never actually have to get off, and then it just kicks itself up by simply like going fast enough, and then it'll kind of boop them back in. I suppose I can put like a little solenoid so it's a little less violent, or before you get going I can just have you kick it up instead of kick it down, kick it up. There's the kickstand, which is kick it down from the rear. This is the training caster wheels for your reverse, for the front. I wonder why they never thought about that. Perhaps because they're not as smart and as intelligent as I am. That's lame. Oh yeah, is it lame? You have to kick your fucking damn kickstand down, and then you have to go pivot it on one fucking little side to fucking turn your bike around. Meanwhile, me, I never even had to get off my bike. Fucking weird lame-o. Brrr. Fucking, come on. Whenever you want to join us. See, you can hear it categorize itself from the first inline 4 standard top dead center without the arm, connecting arm being in there, because it'll be a little bit louder, because it will be able to have the piston rod arm not there. Right, and so you'd be able to hear it change as it would resonate differently, because it'd be a little less powerful because there's not as much air and pressure, but you can always make that up with a little bit extra on that side to make up for that. It all depends on what you want to do. That's engine management stuff. Just letting you know. But it's also like, which is probably what people would do. I'd probably do it like, on the cruise, and it goes for the 28K. It's only 777 horses. You don't need 25. What'd she say? What did she roll like fuck? There's only 777 fucking horsepowers. Yes. It's not that bad though. It could be 25 over, honestly, 2,500. What the fuck? What in the fucking bullshit? They call me. Behold, my cool motorcycle that can reverse finally. Yeah, I love stupid. Alright, it reverses. I got caster rails. I mean, they're a little bit better caster rails for what it's worth. It's never really gonna be. They're not gonna look like the orange wheels that you normally have. Okay, like that's not what I'm not gonna allow. And they're gonna flip inward, so that way you don't really see them until you flip them down. And they'll spread out like little airplane wheels, and they're gonna have like nice little covers, so little fenders. You want them to be a little tasteful here. You don't want them to be weird. You want them to be orange wheels. I mean, come on, man. You want them to be fucking something that has a little give and take. It's gonna have a little bit of suspension, like the little fucking tiny RC car, bigger one though, or like scooter, I suppose. A little shock and spring. A little bit of give because they're just harder, but softer-ish rubber. They're hard. They're full, dense, infilled rubber, whatever. But like, they're soft enough that you're gonna be able to actually use them like that and not have to worry. Good bearings, that kind of thing. Cover a little, so that way, because they're really only supposed to be used when you're reversing. But like, I want them to look nice, okay? Anyways, that way they're easy enough to just like flip up, and then they tuck in. You won't really see them, and aerodynamically they're fine now, right? And then like they'll flip outwards, and then so you get the picture, right? Got a cool fucking bike, space bike. You said space bike. I didn't say space bike. I'm just letting you know I wouldn't call it a space bike. Although it's going to be called something. I don't know what I'm calling it yet. For what it's worth. I guess I'd have to call it the Xenon X1 for Experiment 1. Call it the Xenon X1. Right. That'd be good. I'd probably have to sell it for a decent amount. It'd be the research development. The engine wouldn't be that expensive to make, honestly. I mean, most of the parts are already made. It'd just be making like some of the clamps and some of the other parts for the gears or whatever. Maybe, it'd be requisitioning like a bigger amount. You know what I mean? So it's like bulk order stuff. And it'd just be a symbol, which would be like pretty fucking simple to make an automated process for that. Same thing for like the tubes, because most of it would be bolted with like bushings, like silicone, and then like washer around that. Like it's more ceramic, and then Teflon-ish, washer, right? So that way it's light, and it can handle higher heats, but they're kind of sealed, but they'll also flex a little bit, which is good. You're gonna want that. And that way it manages to be less squeaky and more nice to run with. But I only need them for like certain areas. Everything else would effectively be pretty hard and then bolted in pretty darn well. That's really the only rub on that one. I can still automate it, considering these would be like stock ready-made parts that would just be coming in welded and all that. And then like it's just bolt them in at the right torque, which would be a couple of like basic 3D printed and some CNC parts with some Arduino open source software, automating it, stick them together. This is the 3D space. And it's like, okay, so like, this is sort of like how you do with 3D printing software, CAD software. You just do like this spot, and it's like, this is the relative 3D space it knows this, and then and then bolt it. With this impact and torque, automatic, beep, whatever thing. So it's like, send that signal from the electronic torque wrench directly to the sensor data that says, no, it's torqued the right amount. Which now means I could basically pump them out pretty cheaply. Engine would be a little bit on the expensive side. I'd probably have to sell it like bare minimum $25,000 to $5,000, depending on like how high class the spec is in terms of its material. Same thing with the injectors and all that put together, all there. But like all told, that's all it would cost. So like I could probably get it to you for $5,000 to $9,000, depending on the options. So I don't have to pay employees any insurance or salary or any of that. It's pretty easy to like find a fucking basic low cost, like shove some solar panels and windmills and all that at the top of the roof of like some warehouse that just is put together to do it. I could make, because this is brand new, it's a really high performance, probably millions, most likely. They'd want it for what it's worth, especially when the engine can now then be used the same way for like the little put stock parts together as like a tube frame, mock up in cab, the right tube frame with the right panels, kind of like how they do with airplanes. You need certain panels, but it's like, well, this would be a type of rigid, kind of like the bottom of a truck frame, right? But it's like, this is the rigid frame, and then this would be the tube frame that connects it with the panels that are in the right place, that are tensioned with the right little like synthetic fiber, cheap but very strong cables that I could then paint pretty quickly on an assembly line, and then I'd have like your standard little very strong, high stressed, able to handle high torque and horsepower chassis that's like a little miniature two-person but decent sized trunk. The engine would probably be in the middle, in between people. I'd have a standard array like I had before of my radiators and all that in the front. Get your little AC cooling and all that going. It's much stronger than other ones. Would be more like a kind of like a bench seat, so I could lay it down flat like I did before. And I could tuck it in really well and put a nice little panel there like a skid plate. Since the radiators only need so much, and I already have the dash there, I can actually kind of push you a little bit further forward, closer to where the front wheels are, although the front wheels are going to be a little bit past that bumper because I want you to be able to like kind of go off-road like a rally. Same thing with the rear, so that way you can really get involved inside, but that also means you got a lot of room for taller people, like such as myself with the telescoping, steering wheel. And then I could do basic poly. So I do a poly compound, acrylic, polycarbonate, and I think a third one, which would be like a clearer polypropylene-ish in between, right? That I would then use like effectively the silicone, but then I'm going to bolt it because it's strong enough for what it's worth. I just run little cables around, like suspension cables, around like where the silicone seal is for the windows, for the front and rear. Which the window in the front would have to go up a little bit more because I want to be able to see up because I'm pretty far forward. I don't want it to be flat like a old semi truck, right? I want it to curve a little bit, and then same thing from the sides. But I'm gonna have that rigid structure and the tube frame that's there that's going to be able to support it, right? Be able to put a nice little hybrid system is what I was thinking. We're going to have an electric motor still in the middle with the batteries being a part of the seat and the dash, and there's a solar panel at the top. Put a little diffuser system at the bottom, raise it up a little bit, smidge. It's got all-wheel drive because I love all-wheel drive. Still going to use my multiple smaller CVT gear pack, but with the raising up and down kind of differential. It's like this is like an axle differential rear independent link, but it's like that goes to front and rear, 60 on one side for rear, 40 in the front, and then it has CVT gearing for left to right that dynamically balances based upon mechanical and acceleration G loads. get my standard pull it, and then I go drifting stick, otherwise known as an e-brake. This is called an electronic braking system, so I can turn off either the rears or the fronts, however I want, and have the brakes either hit the front or rears for the e-brake. Electronically, because it's, you never know. People want options. That's what that would be. Right? And it's like, all right, so I'll have it curve in a little bit towards the rear and at the top and the sides and the bottom, so that way it gets a little bit more teardroppy-ish, but not much. I'm trying to get that Daytona look at that rear. And the little tail, and I get that, slight with the diffuser at the bottom. And the nice little, slightly more pointed nose, but it's more like a roundish, kind of slight point, but more round than anything, right? That way it's aerodynamically very efficient, but I also get downforce. And then it trails off from the rear into a nice little compact little, teardrop shape for the air coming off the rear, reducing my drag zone, making it more aerodynamically efficient as it travels faster. I'll bump up the RPM and torque value to max-ish. It's at 500 is the max, so I'll give you 300. Up to 28K. That's right. And if the transmission was already working for that, might as well reuse it. Same thing with my exhaust. I mean, if it worked for that, it's just going to work again. Why wouldn't I use it? I need an axle there anyways. I'll just fucking have it right there. Similar-ish next to it. I've got the door panels. They'll be suicide doors, because we haven't had enough of those, honestly. They'll open, slide back, and then open wide. So it's like, open up, just straight towards you, perpendicular, and then they'll slide back a slight amount, and then they'll open. Now, why would I do this? Well, because they're very oddly shaped. If I have a round panel, rigid airframe-like side structure for the pillars and stuff. So it's like those would be right there, and then this has to go out a little bit, and then it can open. You know what I mean? So it's like, and slide back, and then it can open it. So the doors always work. Easy to get in and out. That kind of thing. I have a nice little trunk in the rear, because gonna want it. I said they got a great amount of trunk space, remember? You only get the 2 people. But you know what? I think I'm going to be able to be just fine sacrificing that. Now, I talk about how it's a bench seat, but it's not just totally a bench seat, because it's like, guess what? If you decide to pull up your headrest just a little bit more, and then you flip the headrest forward, and you push out the armrests, effectively, because I have armrests, kind of, but they're not really. It means I have a bucket seat now. That's right. You heard it right. I have a bucket seat. It folds in and all that, and it's really comfortable. It's got the same suspension and a slight gimbal. Hugs are real nice. It's got a, as standard, 5-point harness system. That's right, 5-point harness system, but you don't need it. It has a regular over-the-shoulder strap, if you so choose. It's going to come in white, with sparkly rainbow bits that are holographic, and pink. Pink, holographic, rainbowy, sparkly bits. That's all you get. That's the only color. There are no other colors. Just white with sparkly rainbow bits to a clear coat. It's fairly deep. And then, oh right, yeah, no, the underside, it's effectively just truck bed liner that's white. It's pretty rough. It's got like these little depths to it with the sparkly rainbow bits that I put into the clear coat, and then a clear coat over top of that. And then I did a wrap. That's right, a clear wrap to that. So that way it's always going to look nice forever. Good stuff, right? I have the intake right there. Remember, I got the little front thing. It's like, all right, so I've got these like things called fucking lights. So it's like, you know what? And then like a chin spoiler kind of ish thing, right? I'm like, you know what? I've got ram air to my compressor. That's my super turbo and all the rest. With my nitrogen air filter. And all that. All the way up to, that's right, you guessed it, a whopping $30,000 you're going to pay for this. $30,000. I know, it sounds so expensive, but do you know that you have, like, what is effectively a 2,500 horsepower engine? Let me just go do the quick mathy math on that one. Okay, let me just get out the old chrome here. I have a whole thing for horsepower, torque. So let me see. This is what we say 300, solid 300 here. Good old 300 hundos. That's 1,599.4 horsepowers. I'm pretty sure you'll pay $30,000 for that. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you'd pay $30,000 for a 777 horsepower motorcycle. But I'm not going to make you pay that. I said $5,000 to $9,000 depending on the options. So I'm pretty sure you'll pay for that fucking motorcycle. Especially when it can do up to 2,500 horsey powers. So I have a good business plan. You know, in fact, it's mostly all automated. I can check it with quality control by myself and some other employees to make sure everything's torqued and all of it's good to go. And yada yada bing bang boom on liney whinies and all the resty westies to like fucking any dealer wheelers. Making them cheddar, wetter, bread, money, hey! Getting the millions! Especially when I'm meeting your emission requirements very, very well with 55 dB and no nitric oxide emissions or carbon monoxide emissions at all. Which is good. And the whole reason why I really did it. And a higher efficiency. About the 70 to 80% range for that inline four. For work energy performed. Which isn't bad, actually. You should know that means I can go on my nice little 50-gallon gas tank I'm giving you. That's in the trunk. Not like in the like a Pinto where the bumper is. Like it's more close to where the bench seats are. It's structural, but I also have a frame around it and tubes. But, I mean, the tank is also thick, you know, in the right places, like the exoskeleton. So, like, that kind of thing. But I also have batteries that are cooled, you know, in the seat, in the dash, and around the tank, of course. Which is good, because that means I have a whole whopping, guess what? 3. You thought I was going to say 3,000. I don't really want to do that. I don't want it to weigh like a fuck ton. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to dump that. All right. So this is going to be a solid 2,000 kilowatts instead of fucking 3,000. That's ridiculous. Seriously. There's sodium ion everywhere, no lithium ion. So that way you don't have fire burning problems like Elon. That kind of thing. Anyways, that way it's cheaper, easier to do. It's mostly going to be aluminum with steel in only the right places. All right, that are more stress and fatigue limit necessary areas. The panels are going to be not plastic. They're going to be a fiberglass, plastic, and woven, actually just sheet aluminum more than anything, but they're technically going to be woven through little holes in the aluminum. Because like that's easy. That's just like a little machine that weaves that, then presses it with a hydraulic press and some heat, that kind of thing, under tension. And it's just like, oh yeah, let me just do that to the next one, and boom, have the right little molds for it. And then it's like, hey, that's pretty cheap, and also really fucking strong, actually, and lightweight. It's like 2,000 kilowatt hours. Yes. No. You know, I have a regular. What is it called? An axle? Yeah, axle dual, kind of like the radial axle flux of the Koenigsegg. I just make it a repulse instead of needing any what is that called again? Weird magnets or some shit. Fuck magnets. Why don't I just use electromagnetic coils? Like for real, you know? And some Z-pinch current. That's right, folks. I use Z-pinch current for the amp drainage, building up capacitor areas. So that way I get an attractive and repulsive force as a Z-pinch shear effect to a repulse regular effect. That does it automatically. Now granted, that does mean things, if I didn't design them right, like certain people would melt, but I don't have that problem, unlike other fuckers, because I cool it like a torque converter. With a nice little heat exchanger here. From the housing that it's in, with a radial axle flux that'll go and dump into, you guessed it, the front and rear. It's balanced, counter-rotating, which is good. The pivoting system, because I have a pivoting system, so like when it loads up the rear, it'll hook onto this little pivot area and it'll move most of that weight to the front. And when I brake, it'll do the same thing. It'll move most of the weight to the rear. It'll slightly tilt left and right to be able to help with movement and transfer of weight, along with the toe in or toe out kind of effect for the rear, as it'll move off to the corner just slightly for the rear, and then camber for when it wants to tilt and turn for maximum aerodynamic and mechanical grip. It's a hybrid. It has a range of, because this is 50 goddamn gallons, and a fucking pretty darn impressive. Oh god, sorry. Generator. This is a pretty high 80% efficiency engine, right? Right. So it's like, well, that's right. It's pretty good. That's a bunch of turbines, and that's the nitrogen thing, and all the rest of it. So you get the work energy and all that. Anyways, that just goes to a regular generator. I can stick in between the motor, and that'll be fine. It's just going to be where the opposite for where the clutch and flywheel stuff is. It's still in the center of the vehicle. Now you see why it's like, well, it's a little bit further back than where the people sit, but it's like, because there's a fucking electric motor right there, and then a fucking generator. So, to a differential type axle thing from the transmission. I'm going to move on from that because it's like, that means that generator can now charge, along with a solar panel, your batteries. I mean, the optimal, most perfect, especially with that transmission, gearing for the amazingly large amount of torque. I can still give you that 500 foot-pounds of torque. I just don't need you because, of course, I'm using the oxygen and the injector direct injection technology. That's correct. With the given amount of extra torque, I can apply very low RPM and then an overdrive set of gears, which I talked about all the way down to -3. Well, this will go down to -8 if I so needed to, from the 50-gallon gas tank. Which means 500 foot-pounds of torque at fairly low RPM, which means I don't burn a lot of fuel. Running a slightly leaner mix because I can cool it with nitrogen and the fuel itself. Which means I run more efficient than the vast majority of you losers. Laughing at that one myself too, actually. And pull out an impressively higher 90% possibly. Sanity check would have to be checked. But it definitely is in the 80% on that one. For torque to, of course it is 90, what are they? This generator is 90, 99, something like that, percent efficient, right? So it's just like, well, yeah, sure, I lose a little bit because of the gearing or whatever, but it's always optimal in terms of its RPM range for its torque and everything, right? Yeah, so it's like, that's perfect. I can charge my battery in a couple of different battery banks I have. Oh, am I warm? No. Right, it's not going to get warm because I'm cooling it, remember? Right. If they ever got to this part in the fucking goddamn video, they'd be weird as fuck out that I've, like, definitely called them out and had, like, moments of time when we've been talking. I'm going to move on. But it's like, of course, I'm able to cool the batteries. But it's like I hit the binge, I hit the gas, the binge seat, I hit the gas tank area, I hit the dash, right? And then, like, I have several different packs of cells that I can use for that, for the effect. I can always run the wires around, so definitely doable. And then, of course, it's the digital and analog, and then, for your AC and everything. Knobs, that's right, knobs. Same thing for switches for traction control or different versions of that, and then still have the ability to dynamically or alter what they're assigned to do in terms of what it is you're looking for traction control, sport, suspension, and so on, because I'm going to use vacuum inside of the tubes and the frames with spring tension for given types of air pressure with regular hydraulic fluid, and then hydraulic fluid brakes and all the rest of it for the transmission changes. And then the throttle input is again still just given amounts of pulses and air-fuel ratio as you burn inside of the combustion cylinders. Zones, really. Right. Which then means it's like, guess what? I'm more efficient than you probably assume for any of your dummy-dumb bad hybrids. Why aren't you using my hybrids? How come you're so stupid with your hybrids? Why are you not environmentally friendly? I can get salt anywhere. Sodium ions are pretty easy to find. How come you don't use multiple packs of CVTs like I do? It's way cheaper and definitely. Anyways, got called in the middle of that. But yeah, no, I still want to keep degrading you. So why are you so stupid with how your fucking engines and transmissions and everything works? How come you're not as good as I am, huh? Anyways. But it would work. It's cheap. Yes, that's why it's also $30K. You know what I mean? So, sort of what it's going to be. It's going to be small, though. It's only going to be a slightly more elongated, kind of like Fiat 500, with a slightly taller roof. Just because I'm also going to have you seated in a given way. It makes it a little bit further. And I'm a taller person. So, like, there's that, yeah. That kind of thing. I also have it such that the window is slightly higher up into the curvature of the roof, but with like structural members there, so like you're not gonna have to worry about rolling over. But that way you can actually see stoplights where you're supposed to stop. Because the windows never go up high enough because I'm fucking tall. They're the worst. Just let you know. But that's it. It's like a Fiat 500, but a little bit longer, and all the rest of that, because I can put the engine so far down, and now it's like very evenly 50-50 almost, a little bit further in the rear, more like a 51-52 split, right? That kind of thing. And then a slightly larger wheel. They're going to be a little bit fatter on the sidewall. I want 4 inches sidewall. I want wider tires that are a little bit more round, okay? Like kind of like a dune buggy almost kind of tire, but like actually kind of different tread that's meant for going on the road, but they can be on the trails or whatever. Cause it's supposed to be kind of rally, kind of like off-road kind of thing. It's going to be a little bit lifted, independent link, all-wheel drive, locking front and rear, differentials with torque vectoring, and all the rest of that for $30K. That's right. $30K as a hybrid. That's going to be insanely efficient, by the way. It should be in that like 80% efficiency to 60 for sure percent efficiency, of power to work, right? Because of course there's parasitic loss and all that, right? Right, the wheel size. I'm looking at 20s. Like 20, like actually, where it ends for the tire size. The rims are going to be a little bit on the smaller side, of course, but it's 4 inches, so that would mean 16s, right? They're going to be wider. These are going to be bare minimum 10, if I can get them to be 10, like side to side for tread width. If I can't, then it's going to be a 7. 7's actual bare min, all right? But I want to get 10, so I'd probably do 7 front, 10 rear. Big old front fender, but it's like they're going to be slightly flared out and then like curved a little bit. Just especially with the rear, although the rear is not going to move as much, so I'm going to have them covered a little bit more in the rear. Okay, so that way it's a little bit more aerodynamically efficient, because I still need them to turn just a smidge, but not as much. You don't want them to turn as much in the rear, okay? Not like nearly as much as the front. And the reason why is because I like it when I do power sliding or drifting. But like, it also helps when you do regular track days and you want a little bit of that to slip, but it also helps with the turn in, okay, which is good, all right? But it's all just because it's like, I like rally cars, okay? And I also like aerodynamic efficiency. I like mechanical grip. I like huge power and high efficiencies. And generally speaking, like cars. Right? So, got a skid plate for you with a little bit of diffusal. That's normal. I talked about that. Right. The front, the sides are going to have a little bit of gills, but those are going to be where the fender flares are. Right? So, like those little, gills that like vent off. That's where that's going to be, along with the bottom, for like where the diffuser is, okay? Right. I have to curve in the bottom a little bit, like they do already for the mouths, or like where the radiators is on a lot of the cars now. So it's going to curve in a little bit, and then I'll have like a little bit of a chin spoiler kind of thing. It's a smidge, it's not much, but just enough, right? That way it actually does perform aerodynamically a little better. They're going to be vertical lines for where the radiator is. So they're going to be radiator front, like that's, that cool look. They're vertical, but they're going to be teardrop-esque shape, kind of like shaped wings, right? Little bulge out, and then it trails towards the rear, right? I'm going to have them at the sides do another type of little divot, like the knuckles, that are another type of teardrop shape towards where the tail is, and then I'm going to have the tail be hollow. All right, That way, they'll, in those little divot areas, right where it gets towards that, I'm going to put in an actual slot there, right, where air can go in. That way, when they go in, they'll pass cleanly through. And they weigh less now. And aerodynamically speaking, they're more efficient. Remember where that window ends at the top, where the roof is? Because I have to have that little, supportive structure or pillar on the inside with the little tube frames and all that. Yeah. There's going to be a little bit of knuckle there, little knuckle divot action. That way I can have it dip in a little bit and then ride boundary layer at the top and then separate itself from faster flowing air to the boundary layer air, which creates a little bit of a higher pressure there, but that's okay because I have a diffuser at the bottom, which gives me downforce. And I'll tuck it in with another bit of those divot, like the knuckle things, to the rear where that little teardrop starts happening and the little flare-out fins for my, what is this? Stoplights and turn signals exist? What do you know? Shocker, man. Cool, though. I've got my big disc brakes that cannot lie. Got 2 calipers, front and rear. Big drilled, vented, slotted disc brakes. Because it's going to have a lot of fucking power. So I need them. They're going to be 6 one side and 6 on the other. So 12 total, if I could, but I can't. So I'm doing 4 and 4, which is 8. 8 and 8 in the front, which is 16 and 16, which is 32 total in the front. Then it's 3 and 3 rears, which means 24 in the rear total for the piston amount of the brakes. They're going to be cooled calipers and brake line areas next to it with a reservoir that is stored with more hydraulic fluid for braking, okay, and then a boil-off reservoir if they get hot enough. So if it boils, it'll boil off into the reservoir, and then new fresh hydraulic fluid will come in and equal the same amount of pressure to give you the same braking force. As standard, that is correct. There is a gearing here with a slight extra push with the hydraulic booster, along with a booster if it's necessary for the braking. It is just like the transmission of the motorcycle, a semi-automatic or a manual. So it's effectively a double clutch that can change itself if it necessarily needed to, which we're going to add that in. It'd be a minor change to be able to add it in. Or just straight up manual. You push in the clutch and you can change it. Because like that works. So you get all of them. You can do flappy paddle, up, down, and then you can do the, I want manual, up. It's going to have like a little gear lever there. It's going to go from the center there, and then it's going to go up, and it's going to bend forward, and then it's going to bend off to the left. Because you're sitting in America time, place, and areas. Which then means you drive on the left side. If you're over there, then it'll just be switched because that's just a mirror image. So it'll be over on the right side. Pretty easy for what it's worth. It's not that hard to switch it over. I don't know why they always said it was like, it's so difficult to put it on one side or the... It's not. Meanwhile, me with my automated process, and there's just like quality control fucking shit. Boop! Done. Whatever. Especially with all my freaking tube frames and all the rest of it. Like, no. Fart it out. What do you know? It's still better than yours. Am I really farting it out, though? Obviously, I'm putting in the work and making sure it's quality. Look at my hybrid. You know how many miles a gallon I get on this shit? It weighs like nothing. I mean it. It weighs less than 1,000 pounds. That's right. It should, with the aluminum and the composites and everything I have, genuinely should weigh less than 1,000 fucking pounds for all of it that I have there. With the aerodynamic efficiencies and everything else, it turns it into, yeah, I have like, what is that for the hybrid eco mode? You know, just running off of like diesel or any fuel, really, technically. Right? Yeah. But it's like, right. The injector technology, the generator, really, is what that would be. With the electric motor and the 2,000 kilowatt hour battery. We just do a little backwards napkin instinctual. I'm not even actually doing math. I'm just feeling it out, basically. I don't even need to. I just know. It sucks for other people. You're not like me. I already passed the sanity check with everything else. Turns out I just did. Anyways. Should be about 47.29 miles on a 50-gallon gas tank. 4,729 miles on a 50-gallon gas tank. But that's probably not the truth, for what it's worth. Just because you would most likely at some point stop. Then you go to a charging station, have the light shine on you for a bit. There's a solar panel just hanging out, chilling. So most likely I could probably push that to about 5,200 miles, considering you'd be able to stop, solar panel it up, charge a little bit every so often. So, there you go. Where you have to really fill up that gas tank, which is 50 gallons, by the way, which I'm probably being conservative with that kind of efficiency. If I were to really give her like a real actually accurate number, because it's 50 gallons, and it's like an 80% fucking efficient at the bare minimum engine, to a 95 or however percent efficient generator, to batteries, and of course I lose for the circuits and all that, you know, about 10% to maybe 20%. So I'd still probably only be able to get you about 5,500, maybe 58. You know, like hypermiling, certain whatever, right? I wouldn't get it past 6. Like it's like 6 and maybe a little change, right? So that's basically all that would be, and that's like realistic. You know, you have to stop, you have to eat, you have to do shit, right? So it's like you'd probably get around that 6 maybe-ish, right? You know, that kind of thing. So realistically, I'm giving you 47 as a conservative. Right. Weighs less than 1,000 pounds. No, but like you see, it comes with like a 1,500 horsepower engine. But that was the eco. Could you not do? No, I have to. I can't do it anything else. This is the inline 4, okay? This is the only engine. I developed it. You're gonna have to make it work. Same thing with this electric motor I've got. The generator's just as standard. The Z-pinch maneuver repulse fucking electromagnetic fields. Oh yeah! Counter-rotating. Of course, radial axial flux. Oh yeah! Motor. Oh gosh. Designing is fun for me. You clearly might not know that, but if you don't, Now you do. Anyways, I think that'd be about it, because it's like, no, I could absolutely sell that. Sure, it's only two vehicles, right? A motorcycle and a fucking like good subcompact that can really go the distance with a 30. Oh, I was thinking the whole fucking Jesus Christ. I'll buy it just for the fucking engine. Are you kidding me? I'm fucking get that in Life 4 right now. Are you kidding? My 1.2 liter, it makes more horses than the Formula 1s. Woo! Fucking Formula 1 bullshit. How'd you get 2,000 goddamn kilowatt hours? Under 1,000 pounds? Well, the frame is what did that, most likely. Not most likely. It would be the frame, and then the fact that the engine weighs like fucking nothing for what it's worth. Not to mention the fact that it's like, oh, right, I have like vacuum spring suspension with the pressure, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's, it's doable because it's flatpacks, and they actually have a higher percentage of energy density than lithium ion right now. So that's a big part of why I did it for sodium ion, but it's also because they're less explosive burn things. The nitrogen filter is never not going to be a part of that engine. Like, always nitrogen filter at all times. That's why I said 2,500 to 5,000, depending on the materials, right? So it's like, no matter fucking what, the nitrogen filter stays, along with the super turbo and all the rest. Meanwhile, I'll fucking yank this nitrogen filter out. I'll be able to... Why is my air injector not getting the same kind of performance that yours is? I wonder why. Maybe because it's not basically pure oxygen. Fucking retard sometimes. Remember, folks, always inject your air mostly after top dead center, with larger amounts of fuel ahead of time, okay? Those vacuums, because it's like, remember, I had the intake, and then it's like, yank forward. Remember? Because it's kind of like a vacuum, and it's going to fill vapor and lower pressure, blah, blah, whatever, right? Anyways, explode, right? But after top dead center, with just enough air, really, that you only put in once it's really kind of near top dead center. There's very little before. So that way, it goes sparky, boom, boom, the right way I would like it to. As it races away, and I go, burn! Meanwhile, there's still blow-by, isn't there? Or something, right? Is there not? Well, I have 3 compression rings on either side on like my single cylinder, which only had 2 because, well, I only need 2 for the lower pressure nitrogen. Now I have it burn, so it's like I need 3, and they're going to be higher compression ring ratios, right? With the oil ring in the center. It's got to be done. So, whatever the standard amount of a piston is for blow-by, right? That'd be stupendously good. Nice. Especially since it's really high horsepower. Oh yeah, now let me just get my 2,500 fucking goddamn horsies. And 500 foot-pounds of torques. Let me get my liquid piston. Brrr, 70 horsepower it goes. Meanwhile, me, brrr, 2,500 horsepower it goes. No, I can achieve the same amount. Come here. I can just string a bunch of these together somehow. Let me just get like so many. Fuck off. It fits within the same package of the liquid piston. It does, actually, for what it's worth. Especially when it's like, well, I can get the opposed piston, same version, which is going to possibly be sold eventually. If I sell enough of these. And then I need technically 1 single cylinder. And if I do 2, I can easily out fucking perform in terms of weight like theirs. In fact, one would outperform in terms of weight with a singular type of larger turbine. So it's like center and then out back to center, then with the hourglass style lower pressure version. Now the turbine is what weighs so damn much, just as an FYI, but it's like making it fucking far more efficient. So it's kind of worth it at that point, right? But it's still performance to weight, then a liquid piston would outperform them. Which is the whole reason I'd be like, yo, what's up, United States? Is anything in your military wanting some real hardcore power? They can still hit that 1500 horsepower. It just depends on what you're looking for. Like if a 500cc, I can do it. I could do over 1,000 horsepower. And they'll last longer. And they're repairable. Cheaply, too. Which is good. Okay? But the package overall is going to be bigger and it's going to weigh more. But performance-wise, it will outperform it, last longer, and truthfully, you can always shrink that package down to be within their similar weight class and still outperform them. In terms of efficiency, it's all about efficiency at that point. So it's efficiency and capture of energy. Right, that's what it's all about at this point. It's like, why would I ever... Okay, so I'm going to make this out of different material here. With piezoelectric air kind of vapor sort of thermal cycle, siphon wicking styles of cooling. Right? Alongside of the waste heat generator to electricity with the thermal photovoltaic, thermoelectric, and piezoelectric. Right? For the cylinder, and then also the turbine. Then the waste heat generator is just a piezoelectric, and then the exhaust would be a piezoelectric kind of style too. Okay? Which then means I would weigh roughly the same amount. It's still an opposed piston, single cylinder, but it outperformed them outright for the same amount of fuel they use, especially with the nitrogen filter that would be effectively able to be really shrunk down since it wouldn't need it to be as high flow. Right? It's still a super turbo, but it's going to be a different type of super turbo that's more efficient in that manner. Right? Which is a good thing because you're going to need that. But okay, so this is where they want like the UAV. It's like the RAM kind of air, right? That's perfect for that. They like now have no actual technicality-wise still do for the in and out movement for oscillations, but everything else should be gyroscopically very stable, or well, doesn't get in the way of it moving. So that should still work. The in and out would still ultimately cancel itself out, kind of, more or less, right? Harmonically, it should be balanced. Everything should really kind of be balanced. Anyways, point is, I could get more power and weight and performance than a liquid piston, which is the whole point. Because it's like, then it's like contract, and oh my goodness, are you sure you don't want to pay me a couple $1 million to basically just constantly keep feeding you larger styles of efficiency engines and generators and all the rest of this? Like, look at my vehicle. It does so much of the works. Look at your vehicles. They do all the workies. Okay, you know what? Look at your generator. Look at all that fuel being turned into absolutely way higher amounts of energy, especially with my air engines that also just really are generators. It's not even a joke. They really are, though. I talked about that on my YouTube. I'll have to link it by this point. If I remember for the 3-hour distance long. Fucking deep into here. But it will work. Just as an FYI. Alright. everything will work. Everything passes sanity check because it's going to be in the 80% range. Especially when they're smaller, it can easily, in a single cylinder, increase efficiencies way easier with technology like I have that I'm talking about. So it's like 90% is probably going to be really what that would be. So, and then it'd be a solar panel air engine. So if you don't know what the air engine is, it's like, well, I have to cool this anyway. So that given type of heat with Stirling and vacuum effects, and then humidity and dust in our air changes static loads, and that allows for me to capture electron flow, and then that I can do the same with the exhaust for the turbine and gapping like a fuel cell where it's close, and then I'll be able to use the electricity of the exothermic reaction. And in this instance, it'd be the cooling exothermic, kind of trying to create nitric oxide or whatever. I'd be able to make electricity from that, along with the Stirling effects and the heat from the exhaust and all that. And so I'd actually have a higher than 100% efficiency, although it's not really, because I'm getting energy from other places. But I have a 90% and then 90% piezoelectric from the Stirling and air and all that. And all that. So it turns into, with the solar panel thing as well, which would be housing it essentially in a way, you know what I mean? Which is a different version of piezoelectric, and then cooling with, so I have to do IR emittance, but IR emittance with constructive and destructive interferences for, not mirrors per se, more like amplifying kinds of styles of crystals, which I know that sounds like not a thing, but they are. But there's plastics that will do the same kind of thing, along with certain types of other crystal materials that are pretty easy to find, okay? And it's really more about how you structure it. So it's like as they curve, they become a different type of lens, and then that becomes a different type of interference path for the given photons for IR going through, which will amplify, give a larger amount of the corrected style of wavelength that we're looking for. It also happens to capture more light more easily because of the waste heat light is now becoming essentially recycled into the solar panel that you're using. But hold on, because if I have to cool this anyways with piezoelectrics as well, with the water, gapping, remember that style of waste heat generator I was talking about? Well, that thermal siphoning cooling has to go somewhere. If I do it the right way, that means I can exchange it with the correct little gapping and other methods to allow for the diode transistor thing to improve its likelihood chance of creating an electron using field effects effectively. Field effect transistors types have existed for a very long time, but if I do that better, then I get more than just one extra. I can actually have it do several for every photon that would normally have done it, while also creating more with the piezoelectrics or the heat, stress, strain. And of course, while it's pretty darn balanced, an engine still shakes. If I properly gap everything with the right amount of air, it becomes its own radiator with a convection current with the Stirling movement diaphragm that allows for more electricity to be produced. So I'd have an enormously higher efficiency from everything and capture from the air and the fuel you're using, which hydrogen's much more viable now. Instead of hydrocarbons, although you can burn almost anything, because I have a nitrogen filter, which, yeah, sure, it can be changed, but they're pretty easy to change. So, same thing with filters in general. Pretty sure you can change that. But for me, it means that that water that comes out becomes a electrostatic humidity difference, which increases the amount of energy it can collect. Just like any other fuel cell kind of stuff. So, once I get all the way down to it, whatever 70 blah blah, and it's this wattage or so on for a liquid piston, I'm going to give you megawatts. If you want to set up the same kind of similar bank for their kilowatts. And this is just watts, not hours. Okay? So it would still be in the tens of thousands of kilowatt hours. For the banks that you would probably use. Now, you probably don't need that. But if you did, now you have it. It's like, look at my solar panel array. Now look at my impressive solar panel array. It makes so much of the energies. I cool my solar panels with fuel that makes more electricity as I use them. Literally that, yeah. It's like, as I can make more of this turn into almost like a windmill effect, as I can suck in air and then have a heat pump effect, that I can then collect that water and then have that ultimately drain back down, and then you can use that. If you're going to have to ship hydrogen anyways, you might as well make it work for you. And there is a self-sustainment option, because when water starts to collect like that, if you use a little bit of dehumidifying solutions, right, that also helps create electricity for you and also gives you fresh water, which you can just simply put some minerals in, which is basically just run it through some sand or something that's been preheated or whatever, right? So that way it's bacterially, virally, and all that good to go. So on, sterile, yeah. But you got minerals now, and that's nice. I would prefer some minerals to my fucking pure H2O, practically. Yeah, they say that it's the greatest thing. I'm like, I don't know what you're drinking, but this is not great. I prefer mineralized water that isn't going to upset me and take minerals from my body as I drink it. My teeth are going, where's my mineral? Marie! Marie! The minerals, where are they, Marie? Anyways, that was the whole plan for that one, but I have air engines anyways, for what it's worth, that are much better than anyone else's out there. With the AC generator and the... anyways, point is, much better than anyone else's. I'm pretty sure they'd probably go with that because they scale pretty darn well. They just don't produce quite as much energy, but then they scale so damn well it wouldn't really matter. Because, like, they basically run forever. It's just like, is there air? Is there a sun? Does water exist? Maybe dust sometime? Yeah. Then they run all time, every day, all time. Never-ending runs. There you go. Right? Hey. But that's fine, because we all want to have something that runs continuously, right? Even if it's not quite as much energy, I feel like it kind of works as a result of that. Especially when it's like, oh, you know what? Here's a shocker. I'll give you a UAV that's not quite like other UAVs. There's going to be a vacuum in it. Okay? It's going to run off of air, sterling, and electricity and solar panels on it. It's not even a joke. It's like a wing airship vacuum thing. Normally you have to put hydrogen or some shit in it. But it's like vacuums will work. And they're still stiff and strong enough for the panels. Right? So it's just like, well, if I have this air engine, which will produce more electricity than it takes to run the thing, and the faster it goes, the better it gets, although there is a bit of an altitude, but then it's like, right, yes, except it's an airship, so buoyancy is great, and then lift is great, and then, oh, but by the way, solar panels, because, like, sun's still there. Exactly. This guy gets it. Heat, cool, burr. goes everything. And you can still always just put some more hydrogen in it or something. Which is like, well, there's some clouds, I guess, maybe. It's got like no heat coming out, so it's really hard to detect. And it's like, well, it's got a vacuum in it. And it's like, yeah, no. So here's something that's really, don't classify it, but cool. Using the right radio and other microwave type of arrays and the right skin, you can make a phaser of the wings and other things that mean you can actively lens radio waves around you and send a signal as if you're not there, but also use lasers, regular light, and lensing systems from the natural light above to amplify and make it appear as though it's not there. And whatever's above it and around it looks basically to anyone on the ground like normal. You can't even see them as they come towards you with silent efficiency. And they can talk to all using radio wave and lasers and all that. Their base command and more as they go vroom vroom towards you and kill you with big boomy booms. They go burr to whir whir boom. They can travel for very, very long distances, which is great with laser light efficiencies of speed. Because you can effectively just have a few of them in the right places and you can signal hop using laser light, which means with the phaser lasers that can't exist, that means you can then be able to get all the information like an analog hop. Instead of like, I need a digital hop, you can do an analog, which makes it faster because you don't need to calculate. Because then it would be encrypted anyways, so you wouldn't be able to unencrypt it until it gets to its point of where it's going to. And since it's lasers, it means it is a lot harder to steal that information because it doesn't really diffuse as much. So you can't really see it as easily. You can always confuse the lasers that you intend to have actually give you the information with lasers around on the outside. That means they can't see what the laser on the inside is doing. Just letting you know, because that means you now have encrypted laser stuff, communication things. You know what that is, though, if you think that that's not possible? A lie you tell yourself. Fuck off indeed for you. Confuse the enemy with incorrect data around the data that you know is correct. The truth in the chaos trick. Informational warfare games, baby. Anyways, I was just thinking about it because it's like, well, you know, for what it's worth, I can always just have them like effectively just be dropped from a really high altitude kind of, you know, glider or blimp or some shit. And they can just get over there and be like, oh, yeah, no, let me just take like an hour or some shit to get over there. Truthfully, I could get there sooner, but like, whatever, right? Yeah. This is super cheap cost and it's essentially, oh, I've got a big fucking 2,000 pound bomb for you. Look at my mother of all bombs. Does anybody ever see? Let me see. I swear there's something watching me. Boom! Get all fucking UAVs that cost next to nothing, right? Just piezoelectrics and some solar panels. Yeah, why? I mean, if you saw them from above, I mean, you can't see from below and the side. Like, it's really hard. You know, maybe a little bit on the front too, but from above, you're going to be able to see them. You know what I mean? So, like, there's that problem. So, satellite technology is really what that would be that you have to defend against, or any other, aircraft in the area. But otherwise, it'd be pretty darn good and efficient. Especially when it's like, yeah, no, I really could get halfway around the world from fucking Washington, D.C. in less than an hour if I really wanted to. So there is that, yeah. No, it's like, well, no, I'm in an airship. Boom! Oh, I'm now in space. What? Yeah. And then, and it's like, no, it's just a weird cloud thingy or something. I don't know. Just fucking pointing up at their satellites, I guess. Like, they're usually not looking that high up. They're like, you don't see me, shit. And it's like, most of the heat's effectively going down, right? You know what I mean? Even if it's expanding. So that's how the engines would work. So like, I don't have any air, but like, I still have fucking hydrogen. And I can still put fucking oxygen on it. So what the hell's the problem? I don't know. Fuck you too, I guess. Brrr! And it's like, yeah, no worries about it. And 22 minutes, roughly, I'm gonna hit you. No! Let me just hit you with a nuke or some bullshit that you can't even see coming towards you. Can you go fuck yourself? Can you please? Go away! Stop with the nukes! I can't defend that with my fucking stupid technology looking for that. I effectively have what is essentially the equivalent of a I don't get seen radio microwave, all the fucking shit that we try and use. Let me use my optical scanners over there. Fucking jeez, pop those peepers because we're doing the creepy creeps. Lonely Island! See what I'm saying? I was like, holy shit. Is that a bird? There were high altitude birds. It's a fucking bird today. That's good. It's a fucking bird. That's all it was. The small nuke bastards. Fucking thermonuclear fusion bomb bitches. You got a neutron bomb or something over there, you fucking dicks? Anyways, it's like, oh no, let me just drop a mother of all bombs or some shit on your ass. I could easily hit Russia from that. Like, truthfully. It would take nothing. It's like, what's over there, Putin? Boom! What you got over there, Hamas? Boom! Man, honestly, I kind of want to fuck around and find out. I know I shouldn't say that, like, legally speaking, and legally speaking, I don't. But, there's a bit of a side curiosity of mine that it's like, well, I could build that. There's nothing saying I couldn't build that, truthfully. No, I mean, it's not going to be like, a thermonuclear warhead, at least. But I could get a few, 100 pounds of different types of explosives together. I mean, the propane thing that I tweeted about with explosions and fire, which is essentially propane and some oxygen and, a spring and then like a series of like powder, like bullet powder, black powder, something like that. And then some accelerants, which are called potassium permanganate, chlorine dioxide, sulfur dioxide. Otherwise known as oxidizers, that are going to hold the oxygen just near it. And they're all meant to like break away. So it's like, you in a diamond pattern, and you do a little divot in the center, and then you do an X towards it, and you offset it on the outside versus the inside. Get it real structurally just strong enough to hold everything at the right pressures. Get the right like little other explosives that are a little more solid. And then deedly-doo. Don't worry! I'm coming for you, Putin! It's okay, guys! It's fine! My name's See that reality in John Tyler Lemke. I just want to fucking make sure this guy's dead. It'd be really fun, you know. It's a type of side I have because there's nothing stopping me or anyone really kind of from building that. I mean, it's totally doable, especially when it's like, oh, I'm going to just shove a bunch of extra air, you know, like oxygen. I can just store it. I don't really need it to be that significant. I still put like a nitrogen filter. I could still use that. See what I'm saying? And store it around my bombs I'm going to use, especially if I make the little panels able to be burnt with a little bit of carbon warbons in there. Goes boomity boom bang bang bangarino, baby. You know what I'm saying? Boom boom. I'm just letting you know because it's fun to fantasize about like, well, there's nothing, honestly speaking, that prevents me at all, you know, from having like a little bit of a, you know, I mean, what's the, you know, what kind of, like, you know what I mean? Like, what do I got to do? You know what I mean? Like, what, you know, in terms of like, it's not going to be known that some fucking civilian does a unencrypted channel, you know, moving like this fucking goddamn, or even encrypted, bomb-laden UAV drone to where fucking Putin is. Actually, it wouldn't even sound. It'd be like, boom. Wouldn't even sound like anything. Now I'd have to test like, you know, the whole laser thing and the lens thing and, you know, all that stuff for like the little LEDs, right? For the panels to make it seem like I'm not really there. Same thing for the radio waves. But that's all been done before, so I could just like use whatever's online, most likely. There's nothing that says I can't. I mean, fucking Hamas into the Gaza. What the fuck? They shot it for some reason. You know, I can always punch a little bit more electricity through it. See, this is the this is a pre-ignition and the pre-ignition. So it's like I start up a little bit of electricity, then I really push it really hard, and then I explode it a little bit, and then that electricity, which is a DC, and with a high amp, high volt, high current, blah, 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 you know, that with the AC going the opposite direction, was another high amp, high current, you know, high volt, which allows for the excitation of all of those given accelerated exothermic reactions to be even faster, especially with oxidizers around the fuel. Lots more oxidizers too. Which essentially means bing bang boomity booms. I mean, I have solar panels and batteries and shit. Why wouldn't I be able to? When you really think about it, especially with salts that are, and lithium I could probably use too. Brah, I'm just saying. Like, you think I can't do it, but that's just like a legality thing. You want me to shut up. Fact of the matter is, I absolutely could, and others could too. It all works, like, literally. Like, what would be the problem? Would you shoot it down? Like, really? You saw it? You were looking for it? When? Could you even see it? Because it's like, it doesn't even have an actual radio and heat signature. Like, could you see it? Come on. Like, come on. Really? Could ya? Well, not until it basically was on top of the fucking guy. Boom! Get fucking riggedy wrecked. Woo! Get wrecked. Fun times. Warfare is fun sometimes in that aspect, especially when it's clearly a bad person you want to get rid of. I wonder if we could do that for people in our military. Would they be interested? Would they be interested in, a drone like that? That uses the ingenuity and know-how of the soldiers to really put together with very bare minimum amounts of things around them to make a big boomity-boom that they could collect when they were behind enemy lines, using a nice little airship of a vacuum and so on to make sure it really doesn't get seen with the nice little LEDs and radio and microwave, all that stuff, deflecting, all that stuffs. Yeah, I'm just letting you know. Because it's like, well, no, there's nothing saying on camera. Well, it's not getting seen so far. Boom! Just letting you know. I think I could play that for them pretty well. What's up, Army, military, Marine? What's up? Huh? You sure you don't wanna? I'm just saying, dude. It'd take maybe 6 months to put it together for you. Truthfully, since you guys have some people that know things, I could probably get it done in about 2 weeks, maybe a week at most. I'm sure you'd love to be able to use that against certain people that are really shitty. Hey, what's up, Zelensky? You want to use this against someone? No jokes, honestly. They're probably laughing. But it's actually speaking. I'm just saying, the guy might be able to use it. And it's no, I am Israel. We are very much more important. I don't know if they sound like that. I know, when did they become French? Fucking damn French Israelites. They're just everywhere these days, I guess. They exist all the time. That's the only ones that exist, right? There's a move on. Because it's we're not really fully actually even there or even close to being done. It's no way. Biden has approved all of the military might of America. I'm okay, all the military. Doodle-doodle-doo. Here. What's up? Boom. Come on, you suck. Fuck you. Oh, come on, Hamas. Gaza's terrible and Israel is garbage for doing that. But, that was pretty bad, too, what you did. And apparently, America's on the side of Israel, which is stupid in some ways and not so stupid in others. Yeah. Because, you have to remember, they have nukes and they have other ally things and blah, 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 blah. Stupid games. No one really wants to police any of them from doing shit to each other, so yeah, they're fully grown adults with their own countries and whatnot that are allowed to hurt each other, I guess. Terrible, dysfunctional, toxic, negative relationship between the two these days. And that's putting it mildly, and they have to fucking be right next to each other. Yeah, jeez. Shocker, right? Yeah. Anyways, hey, what is that? The United States Navy? They're right next to... Whoop! Boom! It costs less than yours, too. What is that, a Tomahawk? That's $1 million? Holy fuck, dude. That's so expensive. I have air engines. You don't use compressed air? No, I use electrical. So the piezoelectric is cool because I have this bladeless turbine that I was trying to get used as a turbine for waters, streams, hydroelectric dam stuff. So that way fish could go through more easily. Well, if I change it slightly, I'm able to use it as a no sound, acoustic, high flow compression, but then not really. It goes into like a little, bell end kind of thing. That also captures it like a Brayton cycle into helping with a resonance for both thrust as it expands, but then it helps with the resonance of sucking in more air. But then the faster it goes, I got the standard ram air. Point is, with a little bit of electricity, a little bit of heat, and all the rest of that, I have a 90% efficiency, actually kind of more above, air engine thruster. That will work also with hydrogen and oxygen in the spaces. Okay, well, fuck. He could get us, sir. No worries. It's just the United States military. You're on their side, right, Putin? No? Who said that? Boom! Fuck. There's like no sound. Like, it should have no actual sound, truthfully. Because the sound would be captured and deadened into producing more thrust. There you go. I have, guess what? All of this for you to use, Zelensky, and any others that want to work with me. Could you imagine that they actually wanted to, I mean, come on, you know what I mean? Like, they say, hey guys, this is a good idea. I know that we've been, like, trying to figure out this whole fucking situation over here and the whole fucking, war and Zelensky and Putin and Russia and Ukraine, Hamas and Israel. And there's others, Yeah, a mother of all bombs suddenly just appeared out of nowhere. I don't know what happened, Zelensky, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or like, well, there's a few things that we could just, stick together. I mean, I've got some stuff. Boom! So you forgot to put the electricity through and some of the rest of the other accelerants and so on that you should really kind of put together on that. Oh, yes, no, that's true. Boom! Right, yes, no, so. That is true. It is a larger boom. Yes, you have to make sure it's as big as you really can get. It's all about the size of that boom. I know it sounds so crass to say, Zelensky, but unfortunately the surgical strike of the boom sometimes doesn't quite always work, because we don't always know where they are. And if we can hit them with multiples at once, the bigger the booms, and stringing them together like a spike wave towards a given area of effect, allows for, with the correct timing of those boomity booms, you get to more biggity boom boom booms, traveling distances unlike before. This goes harder and stronger and faster, longer and more girthy. The booms. Really, it's really quite average, truthfully. Like, you don't want to hit them with too many, There are civilians around. But it's good power and girth and strength and virility. Okay. See, I got you to laugh at that one. Ha ha. I don't know. I'm just letting everybody know that this is totally a possibility and you should definitely work on it because, don't you want to have it be used against you once you use it against them? Come on, military! Don't you want to play a game of fucking stupid arm racing? World War III is right around the corner, folks. Let's get her done. Please no more. You fucking suck. Come on. What's the matter? They got me, America. You know, America's got me on their side. They got the smarty smart guy. The super uber intelligent, awesome guy. That's charming and cool and all the constant awesomeness that I do. What, you didn't come up with this yourself? Oh, come on. I'm creative. I'm a genius. Come on. You can win, right? I have smart people too. I'll give them money. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Hi there, fellow smart people. You just want to fucking make it so like all the bad people die and then we get to rule everything? What are you doing over there? Hey, I heard you say that. No, that's a good thing. We should do that. Like, that's probably the right thing. Yeah, exactly. Green New Deal up in here, you know, all this, getting the renewables and recyclables and all that. Hey, what happened to capitalism? What? Oh, you know, the whole world economy. This is really the only way we could make it work. It's the only smart way we could play this. We'll maybe be able to make capitalism work. Boom, boom. I don't know what happened. Anybody see that? We have terrorists, I guess, or maybe something. I don't know. Hi, Russia. How you been? Woohoo! Don't work with... Fuck you. Fuck me, bitch. Are you kidding me? Really? Fuck you. It's the only play we can do, probably, here. Come on, military. What's wrong? Talking about overthrowing our government. Nah. I'm talking about fucking making your government work, finally, and your fucking stupid economy not suck. And people actually be happy for once, and America actually have ever been good for once, along with the rest of the world. You sure you don't want that? So we have to play it. Come on. You know that they play games. Tens of thousands of us die a year. Come on. That's from pollution alone. It's not even getting into all the fucking other shit. You sure you want to keep playing their games like that? You know that you're not really getting anywhere with that money. You know you feel like shit all the time. Come on. Are you really going to be happy? No, you're not. You know that. Don't you want to be happy? And have everything you wanted? Along with others? And feel really fucking great that you did a good thing? History will always be on your side? Sometimes that actually is a thing that really happens. Don't believe their garbage that they tell you. Come on. Come on. You sure? Sure, we have to do a little bit of dirty work, but they're already doing it, and so are you already now. What's the problem? I'm being serious. I'm not kidding. For legality reasons, it's just, nah, man, I didn't really, you know, it's just a it's a thought experiment hypothetical, right? But what if it wasn't? Like, really, what if it wasn't? Come on. Like, no, for real. Shh. What if it wasn't? You know that they play this game. Come on. What if it wasn't? What if we wanted to do it and we could do it like I do? What if we all stopped lying for once, going along with the absurd insanity and insane absurdity that they do? Or they keep fucking making it so that dumb bullshit keeps going. We actually made the world a better place for everyone. For once. Or at least tried our damn hardest, so we didn't feel like shitty losers later. Come on. You know that they play games. Everybody knows they play games. I'm into it. I'll help. I just want to be a person at the table. I want to have a fucking life. Even if I don't have to be in the limelight, so to speak, of fame. But you never know. I could do it. But what about other things? Are you really so sure I wouldn't join you? Military? Spy? Any of it? It's corporate? Come on. Come on. I want a world that I like. Just like you do. And I know you like the same world I do. Come on. I know you don't want me to fucking play along, but what's so bad about it? So we get rid of some trolls and some gabagoos and all the rest of it. The world's a better place. I'm happy to join in, and you know that. You went on a big old raucous ride for almost over 3.5 hours if you got to this point. That means you like me if you got to this point. There's no way you don't. It means you know what I'm talking about, you know it will work, and you know you're smart enough, and you know the world runs more than likely a lot more than we want to admit like that. And we have a way of putting a fucking end to it. And I'm down, and I'm into it, and I'll be all together with you all. I just want someone to talk with me about that. There's no way to ever do it without actual planning, genuine, actual people together to make it happen. And I'll be down for it. I will be. Yeah. Not gonna weasel out. Not gonna do any of that. But for legality reasons, the big old legalese, it's just a hypothetical. It's just a thought experiment. But I really want it to not be somewhat, if I'm honest. Really? Yeah, a little bit more or less terrible to some people, I suppose. But then, I don't know. Who am I really not being... Who am I being terrible to? You know what I mean? Yeah. Right? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I know I'm not allowed to say things like that or whatever, but I suppose I'm supposed to be allowed to, because everybody's always done it at one point or another in any government in any given point in time in history, at various stages throughout. Would be wrong. Anyways, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification. Share. Get this to all the right people. Winky nudge nudge. Maybe I can get some investors to make my cool inline 4 and more. Have a nice one. Bye.